What's up, guys? It is Modern Craftsman Monday.
Monday.
We have Chase and Bill from HDI Stairs this week. I think this is our first father-son duo guest.
Live, both of them, which
Live,
is
yeah.
awesome.
My favorite part was when he told us he invested $365,000 to avoid paying $1,200 for something.
Smart.
You'll have to listen to the whole podcast.
I love that
to
breakdown. Get into the end of it, guys, because we asked him, was college worth it?
Yeah. Right before that, me and John get into it about some stuff.
Big surprise.
Big surprise. Yeah, right? Me and John never get into it.
Nope.
Give it a listen, guys. This episode is brought to you by Duration Moulding and Millwork. There's already a nip in the air during these early mornings, and before you know it, the cold weather will be settling into most parts of the U.S. Other than vinyl products, which require provision for expansion and contraction, there's really only one major type of siding product out there that you can properly install no matter how cold it gets. It's polyash. Real wood, fiber cements, and even engineered wood sidings need to have field-cut edges and ends sealed. And when it's too cold for paint or sealer to be applied, well, it just can't be done properly. With Duration, there's no need to seal cut edges or ends, so your warranty remains in full force. To learn more about Duration Polyash products, please visit their website at durationmillwork.com.
You guys are all three builders, just so I got a little background thing going on here.
Actually,
so
someone gave me the shirt. I just show up every week and just trying to figure things out.
So
yeah. I mean, I've listened.
Dark here. I don't know anything.
I've listened to a few clips of the podcast, and then I'm I do the Instagram. Bill, Bill's my father, but he putts around a little
As far
bit.
as he knows.
Yeah.
So I have to say I've never listened to a podcast of any type.
you'll listen to this one just to
Okay.
make sure that you sound good.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'm Nick, builder in Boston. John, you can introduce yourself.
Thanks. I
was
thought we
queuing
had
you
this
up.
down.
I was
I thought
queuing
we
you
had
up.
this down. Yeah, builder, remodeler in Boston area.
Touche. I should
Hi.
I should say remodeler builder in Boston.
I'm
Just
Tyler.
restart. Tyler, start over.
Tyler. I'm a small remodeling contractor. Me and one full-time guy.
And
And
Tyler's
also in the Boston area.
No, I'm down in New Jersey. I'm actually really close to Philadelphia.
Really?
Yeah. And we just do small projects, kitchens, bathrooms, interior remodels mainly. Pretty I feel like pretty standard contractor.
Yeah.
Not like we're not changing the world like Nick and John are.
So how did you three link up to be on a podcast together?
eHarmony.
eHarmony.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was
I
weird,
swiped
but
left.
Yeah.
Got
I
both of
guess Nick and I guess we all knew each other just from like Instagram before it was huge. And then just like kind of had a circle between the three of us where we'd bounce ideas off one another. And then Nick and John started having some meetups, which people wanted to be a part of. And that's when we had the idea where why don't we record it and put it out?
Mhm.
But
So-
I feel like I don't know. It's been at least 5 years since we've known each other, right?
I think
Yeah,
so,
I think
yeah.
so. But it really came down to, for you guys, Bill and Chase, like there's, you've been in the industry a while. I'm reading this off. Chase, nothing against you. I'm just reading this off what your father filled out. And your snot-nosed kid has been into it for a little bit.
Did you
But-
fill it out? I think
Maybe he did.
I might.
Maybe Kirsten, sorry.
You filled in yourself as a snot-nosed kid?
Yeah, well, I've
That's
heard
what
it.
I call
I've
it.
heard it so many times. I want to hype myself up, so.
Oh, well, and then it goes on to tell me that Bill gets drowsy at 8:30. So, either way, the whole point of this podcast is really to share stories and be relatable. A lot of us, Bill, you probably can attest to this. The most is that going through this industry, there's wild ups and downs, and the downs, bring you to this headspace of feeling like you're alone and that everyone else is buying a new truck and wildly successful and getting all the jobs that you want, and you go into this mindset of like, I'm just going to give up. And then something turns around and makes you go for another week and then a month and then a year, and then it goes right back down. And the relatability to that is pretty massive. And our audience, constantly comes back and says, you know what, the organic conversations that you guys have, and even specifically talking about like the negative sides of this industry and how it impacts us, talking about mental health and how it can crush us, has put people out of business, has put people in positions to, break up their family. All of those stories really is what we're trying to shed light on, is that none of us are alone. We all deal with this in, on a every day, every week, every year basis. But it's, the tenacity that a lot of us have that allow us to get through it, and at the same time inspire those guys that are in that position to make it through it, or to make the decision to give it up and try something that they've been contemplating.
Mm-hmm.
That was well put. Well put.
Yeah. Boy, it really. So I've been doing it for 36 years. I think even 37 years now.
Over 35. That's what the T-shirt.
And so, we have T-shirts that say for stair building for over 35 years, and then we say in a row in parentheses. So it's uninterrupted.
Mm-hmm.
35 long, painful years. But no, it is. It's really true. This is a life. Building things is a life. It's a lifestyle, and boy, it has high points and low points. And if you can hang on to a high point for a long time, especially when you have a crew, if you can keep everybody happy for a long period of time, your crew and your customers, boy, you've done something pretty good there then. But it doesn't take much to upset the apple cart and go into a low where morale is, including your own, gets low. You get tired. You get frustrated. Yeah.
Wait, how do you get into this industry? Like, take us 45 years back.
So I started as somebody that I loved working with my hands. So even as a small child, I was working with modeling clay and really excelled in art class. And then I loved building models, and the models got more complicated, wooden ship models and things like that. And then when I was 14, I started building a little speedboat in my basement. And then my father was always toiling on something on the house, renovating. He was a banker, sort of systems analyst, and but he hated it. But he loved working with his hands. So I was always at his side, either volunteering or forced to be at his side. And
look how the when I included it in this preparation too.
Yeah. So then I really just loved woodworking and thought that boat building was the best part of it. And so Jimmy Carter, who was once a president,
peanut farmer,
right? He was a peanut farmer. Yeah. A nice guy, all around nice guy. He had this the CETA program. I can't even remember what it stands for, but it was government subsidized apprenticeship program, structured. And so we had real. Oh, what is that? That's real juice.
Just the seltzer.
Wow.
Can you, before we go any further, can you just take that thing off your finger? It's distracting me.
I was waiting for that.
Bill,
he has a foam clown nose on his finger and he's whipping it all around.
Here was this program that was structured. You worked under a professional. I happen to work under a boat builder, and you get a certified apprenticeship. And I met a couple of guys that were really furniture makers who were also working at this boat building, and got friendly with them, and they spun off and rented studio space in the building that we're in now. And so after I graduated from college, I joined them. And in college, I also was working. I was also doing coursework at what was called the Program in Artisanry at BU, very comparable to the RISD furniture design program. So I did that for all my electives because I was way too far into a business degree to turn back. And then I joined those two guys here renting space, and then we were really trying to make furniture. But there's really no money in custom furniture building.
I feel like it's similar to building custom cars. It's like you either have to do it on a commodity basis where you're building like production value, like you're building so many of them to sell, high quantity, or you're building cars that are, $500,000 that people are pouring their heart and soul into it. And, and we've hired some furniture makers. We know some furniture makers, and it was always very similar. It's like there was, it was a small operation and the margins were super tight. It's like an artist. It's like, they do it for the pure joy and love of it, but they struggle to create a support structure under it.
Yeah. And most of the furniture makers, the successful ones today, have spouses that really contribute to that, to the household income. And so that's really the only way that makes it viable for many of them. Or they teach. You look at the big names like even John Dunnigan teaches at RISD. All of the more successful, well-known furniture makers are teaching, or they have a little shop on their own property.
I think that's an interesting point, though, about the spouse, is that the spouse becomes the financial backbone to allow them to be the creative, and to and I think that's oftentimes lost, right? Because it's not really, it's not marketed that way. It's like, hey, no, he's just a really successful furniture designer that's always been good. It's like, well, I mean, he did have the financial backing of his spouse to work through that and not have to worry about that support, where a lot of these guys don't necessarily have that support, or maybe not a spouse at all, and they're trying to get into it and break into it. And it sounds like that's what you guys experienced, is that you got into furniture making but quickly realized that there wasn't money to be made.
Right. And we were interested in making money.
Right.
And it's sort of demoralizing too to really pour your heart, time, and assets, your money into a piece that you can only sell for 60% of what it really is worth.
Right.
So you just start to feel bad about the whole thing, and you get a little bit resentful for your customers, that they're not willing to appreciate and pay for this object that you created for them.
And it's like,
sounds like the first 3 years of business for pretty much everybody.
Yeah.
But I think about, I wish I remembered the name of the apparel company, but my wife knows this guy that does, has some sort of apparel company, and she was on his website the other day, and she like, her jaw drops. I'm like, what? She goes, he's selling t-shirts for $699. And it's going back to the point about the cars.
Were they
it's
NS t-shirts?
Yeah, signed, right? But it's like the front. I relate back to the car and the furniture. It's like if you were trying to make a let's call it a fair markup on it, right? Whatever. Maybe it's 50%. I don't know what furniture markup is, but like a fair markup where it's like you put your heart and soul into it. You sold to the client, hey, I want to make a fair amount of wage. It's almost too in the middle ground of what. It's like it's expensive for the client that you're going after, but if it was, $10,000 for a nightstand, it's like, well, now it's exclusive. Now you're in this realm of like exclusivity, and you're selling it based on the fact that it's worth more. The dollar value is higher, and that's what my wife and I were talking about. It's like, I wonder if that's the whole model behind that business, is that you're going to sell a $699 $699 T-shirt. So someone wears it and says, "Oh yeah, this was $699." It's super exclusive. They only made five.
But that market is, so
right, which makes it even more difficult, especially in furniture where furniture is so disposable, right? You look at IKEA will never be a sponsor, so let's use them. Look at IKEA. Everything is designed to be one-time use.
Yeah, they leave it behind. People move from an apartment and leave things like that behind for the next tenant, who either throws it directly into the dumpster or uses it for.
I think we should get something straight. They don't leave it for the next tenant. They leave it because they don't want to take it apart.
I saw a really interesting documentary on Netflix. I think it was an episode of the Broken series that actually talked about. Did you watch that one?
They tipped over, right? The tip over.
Yeah, how people. Yeah, too lightly made. Yeah.
IKEA kind of drove out a lot of major American furniture makers, and really I think they actually got in trouble for dumping, which is when you're selling your product at lower than it is to produce for the sole purpose of
saturating a market.
Yeah.
Bill, going back, did you ever finish that speedboat when you were 14?
I did. Got it out of the basement. The building it was way more fun than using it. You know? And so it kept me kept me busy and kept me. I would be up at night. And in the basement, the little shop was under my parents' bedroom, and I would be trying to quietly fare something off of the block plane, at midnight. My mother would call down, "Billy, go to bed." So that's how passionate I was about it.
How big was it?
I think it was 10 foot. It was like a tunnel hull. I think it was about 10 feet.
I don't know what a tunnel hull is.
It's has a cavity in the middle, in the center of it to capture the air, so it rides super high.
Okay. Like a pontoon?
Yeah.
Kind of? All right.
Yeah.
And the CETA thing I looked up, it's a Comprehensive Employment and Training Act.
There you go.
So that in 1973 to train workers and provide them with jobs in the public service. Yeah. So you took that as an apprentice, right? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
So that led.
Well, at the time, I think minimum wage was $3.60, and the federal government was paying half that.
Wow.
As an incentive to the employer. But I loved it. I worked at that boatyard all through college, and from 2 years in high school.
So when you left there, that's when you guys started the furniture company?
Yep.
How long did you run
we were making one-off pieces, but then we were supplementing the furniture by even building decks and other cabinets, built-in cabinets and things like that. But that, we were building the business. We were accumulating, equipment, and we were doing it, because we loved it, and the money was at that time kind of secondary. There wasn't that much stuff to buy, so we were really just all about the trade, and but even then, even like the millwork part, the cabinet part was interesting, because here, somebody would want a bathroom vanity that had 9 drawers and 2 doors, and they were balking at paying $1,500 for this one-of-a-kind handmade piece, and then they would put a stone countertop on it and a Baldwin polished brass faucet that cost $1,600 alone. So we were not very smart about pricing and really going after the right kinds of customers. But once we had a little bit of history behind us and a record of that history in portfolio that we could present to people, we were able to drag in more money, and as we figured it out, we figured out the stair part of it was really had the most potential of all the millwork that we were doing.
How long were you in business before you got to stairs?
I think we did our last real cabinet job 24 years ago. So it was probably, 10 or 12 years of doing everything. And then finally we realized, we can stay busy enough with just stairs. Let's not try to mix it up, because the stair building is so specialized. Even the shop setup, you don't have a lot of millwork shops that do casework, running trim, and also stairs. We have 15,000 feet of shop and office that is nothing but stairs.
Mm-hmm. What was that conversation like? And who was it with?
And how many stairs had you done before you were just like, you know what, let's just do stairs?
Oh, hundreds. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It took over the rest of the business, but we still were doing, other.
So it was a necessity at that point. You didn't wake up and say, all right, let's just get rid of everything and just do stairs. It was very much, the stairs were driving that bus.
Yeah, very much so. And I think the last casework job we did was this crazy, super high gloss white kitchen in Hingham that we were just like bleeding money on. We must have refinished that thing 3 times. It just kept coming back. Wasn't glossy enough. The packing material that we used to protect the doors while they were being brought to the site reacted with the finish and became.
Had that happened before?
Bubble wrap's the worst.
Yeah, so it was something, and we thought it was something fairly inert, but it finishing that was the other thing. We were trying to be finishers mixed in with stair building and cabinet making, and it just always felt like we were, breathing in, the last of the fumes in the van on the way up to the delivery, going, holy cow, we put the last coat on last night at midnight. Here we are driving to Hingham with this thing, So, yeah, I think it was.
Do you guys do your own finishing for the stairs, or the painters and contractors doing that?
We don't do any finishing other than priming, latex white primer. And even that we wish we didn't have to do, but it makes the product so much more presentable and much easier to finish paint ultimately when you've got a good shop prime coat on
so if you just change that to like a signature white and like brand it that way, so everything leaves with our signature white. No one needs to know.
It just kills primer.
So much more presentable.
Totally. So what was the demand that you saw on the job sites? Was it lack of skilled carpenters that basically wanted to offload the stairs?
Well, one of the things that we went through in Rhode Island, because we were mostly local, when we first started out, Rhode Island stair building is very regional. So some areas of the country still a shop built stair is unheard of. They just won't do it. They only nail over a substructure. And some of the substructures are pretty complicated. Some of them are really, CNC cut LVLs with plywood stub treads and risers, and they just nail over that whole precision built substructure. Whereas, now we encourage shop built stairs, or at least a machine package that is a shop built stair that happens to be assembled in the field, right? So one of my original partners was from New Jersey, and he had worked a summer in a stair shop. So he was familiar with the shop built stairs. And so
and Bill had the experience of the shop built boat in his basement that he had to get through there.
So that was it. But it was hard. It was a hard sell to sell Rhode Island builders, the idea that you could build the stair off site and put it in place. And we got so much pushback initially. It was very hard to break in, because what the other part about the shop built stair is trying to sell that to somebody that's used to a nail over. They're building this, this structure with 2x12s, all saw cut, nailed, 1,000 different ways, not at all meant to come out. So they didn't want to give up that effort. and have us tear that out to put in something that's built more like a cabinet,
Makes sense.
Yeah.
I feel like half the time walking into a job, you don't know what you're getting into ripping it out in the first place.
Yeah.
I think it's crazy to think though that people, I mean, I guess that's just the way that it was, but if you can produce like the amount of planning that goes into a staircase, it doesn't need to be done on the job. That's all done offsite. And I feel like that's the most difficult part of your business. Like building it isn't even as hard as compensating and planning and laying it out as to why you wouldn't want to do that in a controlled environment without people being like, that's the easy part of it. And all of the most difficult aspect is done offsite anyway. Why not just build it offsite?
Yeah. I mean, think about this. Because you guys are renovators. How many times have you gone into an older house that was built by a carpenter that did everything? So for the kitchen cabinets, there's a cleat on the bottom, nailed to the plaster. And there's a middle cleat and a top cleat. And the bottom is the shelf in the bottom of the cabinet. The middle cleat is the shelf in the middle of the cabinet fixed. And then they just built the frame around that and put doors or drawers in it. It's stick-built kitchen cabinetry. Well, that's totally unthinkable now, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think to Tyler's point, it's like that's why cabinets evolved, right? That's why millwork evolved. That's why everything, John, I'm curious of your thoughts on shop built stairs, because I feel like this goes down the route of prefabricating panels for building a house. And does it take away the same amount of craftsmanship or creativity?
I think it's the opposite. That's what I was trying to drive at, is when did it change? I was trying to put my thumb on when. Was it an era when there was a recession and a certain amount of craftsmen decided to retire? Because I feel like every crew I was ever on, there was only one guy that knew how to do stairs. Everyone else ran base, did casing, all that stuff, knew how to set a door. That was the majority. That was the general pop in the crew. But when it came to stairs, there was one guy. You didn't touch his tools. You didn't go near his truck. You didn't do any of that stuff. And it was like and you stayed out of his way. And I just don't know if that was a certain point where there was a recession where something hit where it was like, all right, there's a really lack in this. There still is, in my opinion. So Nick, to the point.
There's a lack in all the carpentry trades. I mean, it's painful. I don't know how you guys are.
Agreed, but I feel like stairs you can get away with an entry level guy putting in base, and you can get away with it and you can hide it. When it comes to stairs,
but that's why they said they prime it before it leaves.
Yeah, true.
They can have their you hide all the mistakes.
But I just feel like it's obvious. Like you can walk into a room and go, it feels wrong before you even walk it. It's wrong, and it's devastating to a project. And I feel like it's lost value over the years. And to have this precision stair done, I feel like there's only a few people. Like when I worked in Beacon Hill, I'm drawing a blank. There was like one guy you talk to. Is it Dixon? Jed Dixon? Yeah, Jed is like the only guy you talk. When it comes to like one person in a whole area that you can talk to about a staircase, that's like an art, to go back to the furniture part. But Nick, to your point, to your question is, I feel like a shop-built stair, I mean, just look at their IG. Mm-hmm. The fact that they crushed that was Harris staircase.
Right,
with Cedar, it's like, dude, that is not a staircase.
It's art.
I would not describe. That's art, straight up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like I think was it?
We get invited to all of those jobs because we're stupid enough, I guess, to try it all.
Yeah, and sometimes it goes well. More than enough.
It does. We have enough. We have enough critical mass behind us to know which jobs need to have a really, really big budget. And we didn't know that before. And I have to say, there was a long time when we were, when profit was, non-existent. We were having to, make up for underestimating things by working Saturdays and Sundays. And, you have to get the job done, right? And so then once you finish it and do a good job, then the only benefit to that job is that it adds to your portfolio. It adds to your credibility, which is huge. There's really talented stair guys out there that are 1 and 2 man shops that their capacity to produce is pretty limited. They can have 1 or 2 jobs going at one time. We have almost 50, and we're not a production shop.
I feel like that's every staircase in New England is coming out of his shop. Like I thought he was going to say 5.
Yeah,
it said 50. I'm like, so they're all of them.
But then, if there's 50 jobs on the book, some are in design, some are in production, some are in installation. Because our jobs can go for a year. We might help establish the well opening, and let the framers really, do their work around us, around that precise well opening, and they may not need us back for months to set the stair carriage, to set the stair body itself. And they may not need us for months after that to put landing, nosing, and fascia and posts in so the flooring guys can come up. And then they might not want us for months after that to set the finished balustrade. So these, you're working on a $30-40 million residential project. They go for years. They take, those projects are going on for 2-3 years.
And like they're all on ComApp.
Yeah. But then people hear about us from other, they're building a house in the Berkshires, or they're building, something else, in the Hamptons. So we follow the customer down to those projects too, wherever they might be, But for sure, the majority of the work is in the Boston area. Yeah.
I want to go back to, it's Tyler asked a question as to how many staircases did you do before you decided to strictly focus on it. But I'd ask the question, what was that conversation like, and who was it amongst? Like, what was your team at the time that you went from we're doing everything to, hey, staircases are overloading our shop, we're going to shift 100% of our focus to the staircase? And I want to piggyback that to the question that John started getting to, is that, how were you attracting that market? Or I think you actually started to talk about it, is like realizing that this was going to be a hard sell. What exactly were you putting into place to sell it?
I was always there was no Instagram, no Facebook, no internet.
Mm-hmm.
So I was always a huge fan of direct marketing, because our choices were only Yellow Pages and mass media, right? So, and we had a pretty decent showing in the Yellow Pages, which was the back of the phone book. In case you guys don't remember having a phone book, you guys are pretty young.
I'm thinking of every listener right now. I wonder how many people are like, Yellow Pages.
Yeah, right.
What the hell is that?
Isn't that a website?
It's like that's back when we carried map books around to find out where we were going.
That wasn't even that long ago.
So
I know.
So
Come on. Like a little. Sorry, you're the educated one out of the group. But yeah, I used to be underneath my seat.
We advertised in the Yellow Pages, and then I also would get like Architectural Digest or some of the magazines, and I would leaf through and use advertisers of architects and builders to directly contact those people to see if they could use our services, rather than sending out thousands of mailers or spending a ton of money on a printed advertisement.
So take us through that call. So you call them, the architect, and
I might have, we had a postcard that we used to send out, and it's funny, I had one. Damn it! It was so cheesy. It was black and white. I don't know what I did with it. Oh, here it is. So we had
best office ever.
No, you're the only ones who can see it, but we actually printed this thing, and we would mail it. We would mail it to people.
God, I feel like I've seen that.
So this was probably 1987 or something. So So that was our
classic,
big investment.
the classic twofold.
So we might mail that to somebody and then follow it up with a phone call. But there was always follow up. We were always trying to expand.
So what was that follow up call? Like I'm thinking of like everyone that's calling architects and designers right now, going, "Hey, I get them. I get them like a phone call, and I'll get a DM. It's like, hey, we're a designer in the area. Would love to work with you." And I'm just like, chalk that one in the back.
Yeah,
I want to be like super responsive, be like, great. Would love to have you on board, but it goes into the abyss, and then they reach out again, and you're like, I need to program that in my phone so I can ignore it on the third call. So
I think it really there was some salesmanship. You had to basically sell yourself, convince people that you had something that was of value.
But was it like the next step was to get in front of them, or was it to get one of your products in front of them? Like was it you to go?
We would try to get in front of them, and we would try to mention the highest profile jobs that we had done and people that we had worked with and areas that we work in, and things like that. And we started to build a client base that I still have clients that I work with from the very beginning. I'm working with sons of clients that have handed the thing over. Hopefully he'll work with the sons of bitches. I mean, sons of clients that I've worked with for 36 long years.
I'm curious. In the beginning, was it architects that you were communicating with, or was it builders?
It was both.
Trim carpenters, or
it was both. But there was, we were lucky because the stair part, there was definitely a hole. There was a void that was like a vacuum. First of all, the only stair parts you could get were Morgan stair parts that were distributed by Brosco. All right, that was really it. So
you were basically looking at, obviously people were building stairs, but the shop built stairs basically, and I'm summarizing here, expanded what the staircase could look like.
Yes.
Rather than just being, a switchback or something like a straight shot, it now you're turning into something that can be more architecturally pleasing, more aesthetically pleasing. Like this is now bringing the furniture making into it more of an art piece, of a statement.
Yeah, and we were good designers too. So that was really another part of the pitch back then, was that we're not just carpenters, putting store-bought parts together. We're thoughtful craftsmen that can build you a stair that's going to be more, it's going to be better looking. It's going to be more durable. It's going to be like a piece of furniture. And so that was a decent pitch, and nobody else was doing it.
That was from day one, right?
That was from day one, because back then we really, really cared about our work, as opposed to today.
You mailed it in.
So, going back, you had mentioned that, early on the profit just wasn't there. You underestimate and, continue to over deliver, and you chalk it up to, at least you got the portfolio out of it. And it's, oftentimes I say that, it's, you write it off as a marketing expense. Yeah. And it's, in some ways it seems like a joke, but when I say it, but it's a very real strategy, where it's like, the more common, at least nowadays, I think, is I got to rush and get this done so I meet my time and I make money on this, where it's like money becomes the first priority there, rather than committing to what you sold. And what you sold was a really badass staircase that, for X amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
What has
Nick, I think that changes on, I think we've talked about this before. It depends on the scope of the project.
Yeah.
Like I'm thinking, when you say that, I'm like, when I first started, it was a basement renovation. And yeah, maybe there was a hint of like, what can I pour into this? But a lot of it was, how do I wrap it up?
Yeah.
Sure.
So there's only so much craftsmanship you can pour into it at that time. So I wonder, with that said, like there's a line. And I just want to put that out there, because so many times we have this conversation and people just chalk this up to, all right, you're working on $40 million renovations. Peace, I'm out. How does this relate to me? How does this relate to my kitchen and bathroom project that I'm doing right now? But I think, Nick, it comes down to whatever you sold, that part of the craftsmanship. And if you're listening to this and you're putting in box cabinets, like I said to one of my guys last week, we're doing a renovation, and I was like, let's get one of the signs out front. He's like, we're only doing the interior scope, and we took this product from somebody else. And he's like, do you really want your sign in front of this?
It's true.
That's what he said to me. And I was like, dude, as the PM, like, yeah, it's got a broken shutter. Talk to the shutter guy, see if you can get that fixed. Like, figure out how you can manipulate your budget to make it so you feel like you want to be part of this and you want to be advertising it. So it's not just that it just hit a nerve with me that, like, yeah, you can look at it like scope and budget and all that, but that's never the point of a craftsman. It's the craftsman is taking whatever product that comes along, whatever that budget is, and trying to manipulate it and shape it into something that's amazing for them.
Yeah, and you want to, so the ideal thing is if you can build something that looks like $1 million, but it only costs 500,000. I mean, that's
with your skill. With your skill.
And that is huge, because you don't want to build something that looks like $1 million, but it cost them, 1.1 million. That's a lose.
Yeah. But I mean, one of the things is that's what's beautiful about our industry is that it's tangible. And if you don't have that thing to almost brag about, then it doesn't fill the tank. As a personal, thing that you want to keep going at, we can chalk it up to marketing 100 times over. We've all done it. And that's honestly like, it's almost the scapegoat to the situation. It's like, Nick chalks up to marketing. I'm going to do the same thing. I may have failed, but you know what? It's a spin.
You can't, that's not sustainable,
But it doesn't feed the craftsman inside of you.
Yeah.
And that's the glitch in the system, is that how do you get it where you're like, you go home and like, I come home and if my wife was on the podcast, she'd be like, I don't want to hear about this stupid railing anymore. Or like whatever it is that I'm jazzed about, that I'm pumped and I'm gushing about. And she's just like, I can see it in her eyes. I'm like, you're not feeling it. Okay. And who do I tell? Like my boys, I'll flip through photos, and that's why I have 40,000 photos on my phone. Yeah, no, yeah, true.
Well, it's funny. Like when there's definitely a point, and maybe it's maybe it's an age thing, or you're feeling like you have obligations, or you just decide, hey, you know what, I'd really like to get paid well for what I do. You start to that relationship of the money that you make on the job becomes more important. And I tell the guys that our customers' minimum expectation is to end up with a beautiful stairway. So you can't really use the fact that we build beautiful stairways as a measure of success, because that's the very minimum expectation, right? We have to deliver that. That's what we promise. So that's not a measure. I say the measure really is, how did we get there? If you had a lot of rework, that's a fail. If the customer was completely frustrated with you because you were behind schedule or delayed the job, that's a fail. If the guys in the shop were frustrated and at each other for whatever reason, that's a fail. So the measure of success really is the journey towards that perfect stairway. It isn't just standing back and saying, look how successful we are. We can build any stairway anybody throws at us.
Anyone can get to the finish line. It's how you get there.
Yes. John, we've talked about that a lot. It's like we look at these finished products. There was a specific job that always irks me, because years later, I looked at the job. Long story short, I lost the job to a guy that underbid it and lost his shirt. I think he went out of business. Years later, they posted about how beautiful, and they talked about how great the project was. And I'm like, I know the story. The guy went out of business.
Yeah.
It's not to the, the photographs look great. It's not to the caliber that they signed up for, but it's like smoke and mirrors. Like John says, it's so false. And you say that, you have to be able to measure it. Is that, I'm curious, is there a structure to actually measuring that? Are you guys sitting down as a team and debriefing every staircase and like, how'd this one go? Or is it just kind of natural feel?
Sadly, we have no time to do even things that we know we should be doing.
Yeah.
The stuff is coming at us so fast that we really, it's a problem in the shop. that we are under so much pressure to fulfill our obligations that it's actually I have to make some kind of a change, because it's affecting morale. It's affecting the level of stress in the shop. And, of course, this, since March, like this COVID thing is just an added, dimension that is just really painful. People that have children, they're making schools decisions. Do I send them? Do I not send them? You got people, staying home, homeschooling kids of 3 different ages, and they're not teachers. I just really feel for my guys that have that added burden, and you can see it. I wish we had time for harmony.
You're right, because when you start getting out of tune with your guys, the stress that they're under, you're aware of it. You're walking through the shop and you see that, John over here usually is super chipper, and today he's just down and something's bugging him, and you want to sit there, and it's probably because he's under a tremendous amount of stress for this project, but you can't, like you say, you don't have the time. And I think so many people can relate to that, is that, yeah, it would be great to sit down and talk about the wins and the losses and improve from it. But I think, it's something that a lot of us unfortunately put by the wayside, because we are in this fast-paced industry, and ultimately it leads to probably a lot of unnecessary turnover or unnecessary, stress amongst those that, maybe they stick around, but then they're resentful.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's just it's the mood is since March has been really, really gloomy.
What if, now that you're sitting down, kind of, we're talking about it, like, what would you like to change about that? Like, how would you approach this situation if you did have the time?
I think it would be really a big benefit to the guys if I could take more time to actually look at the jobs that are successful, and most of them are, believe me, but to really acknowledge everybody's effort, as a team and as individuals, for producing. And I don't take the time to do that often enough. We're going through employee reviews this week, and so I'm trying.
Perfect timing when the kids go back to school. There's no stress involved.
By the way, come in early tomorrow. I'm going to talk about your performance.
Yeah. I think you just do Employee of the Month plaques.
No.
Get those up on the wall.
I heard Employee of the Month is the worst thing you can do.
Oh, really?
It's in the book I'm reading right now.
Did someone tell you that didn't get it?
No.
Well,
maybe.
You asked an interesting question. I'm curious if you guys, do anything, if you have any methods to kind of measuring success, because I see it as a difficulty that it can certainly, if you don't have that global picture and you don't have the opportunity to kind of see the finished projects, then I can see why, as a, if you're just working in the shop, or you're just working as one smaller part of the team, how it might get lost, and you don't know how to measure your own success.
I mean, the short answer is no, but the long answer is, we just finished a big project, and we had a couple guys that never saw the job that were part of the millwork. And the very last day, I was like, listen, take him over there, let him spend the whole day, check out the work that he's put, literally hundreds of hours into, let him get to enjoy how that came together. As far as measuring, it's very real time for me here with our company, is that we've actually just as of today talked about restructuring our employee review program, where we're building it out, so it is more, it's set in set in stone. Like, hey, we're doing it in May and we're doing it in November, and that's it. Like, these are the dates. 3 weeks of my time in the middle of the year, 3 weeks at the end of the year, because otherwise,
what if you just got hired? Like, how does that work?
Doesn't matter.
Like, you only hiring in certain times?
No, it doesn't matter. They come whatever. If
so they get
still
a review in like a week. That's
sure.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So anybody that's coming on NS, there's certain times you should get hired. Listen up.
But the point, which was, John, that's a real question. No, it's a real question, because I just was like, it's too much to build your point. Like, it's too much to try to navigate it and like review, randomly. And then it's like you're giving raises at random times, and then it's like then you're trying to touch base with people at random times beyond the structured review. Chase, to answer your question, it's just being in tune. Being like when someone's down, pull them aside. Hey, what's going on? Or like that you're stressing him out because you told him he's got a week left and he just screwed up the outside stringer and he's going to rebuild it, and he's not going to get it done in time. Like, that's a real situation. Like, pull him aside and like that. That's what I'm doing, is like I'm pulling him aside. Like, hey, stop. Like, you're in the heat of it. You're looking at this so micro because you're in it, but step back and just take like 20 minutes and realize what you've done to this point. Look at the project to date. Like, you've done a lot of incredible things, and try not to make it a shit sandwich by like basically bashing them, giving them some good news, and bashing them again.
That's my method. I like when
the shit sandwich.
You see it, I like to punch them right in the gut.
But we can talk about the psychology behind it all night, but you have to remain in tune. That's what it is. It's like, I bring everything back to communication, and communication in between the team and the leader in your position. It's like making sure that you don't lose sight of that, and let them know that, hey, listen, I know you're stressed, and I know that I'm the one causing the stress. I want to be an asset to you. I want to be helpful to it. So Chase, to answer to answer your question, it's no, but it's something that we're actively working on. And I've had guys leave, and and two guys recently, two of them that I thought would be with us for a long time, both for different reasons. They wanted to explore different opportunities. One, something that we just didn't do here at NS Builders, and it kind of put me into this funk of like, am I not doing this right? Am I not in tune with my guys? Am I missing something? Am I building something that they're not on board with? Like, questioning everything, where it's like, no, I need to talk more. I need to, like, when something's up, call them out and sit down. Hey, one-on-one. Hey, just like me stand over.
Well, you know what? We were in the reviews. One of the things that I was talking with one of the project managers about is labor is so scarce right now that we're very, very hesitant to call out areas for improvement. We're very, very hesitant to criticize in any way, because people have so many opportunities. You say, oh, you don't like the way I do that? You don't like my attitude? I can have 4 offers tomorrow.
Bill, but don't you think that's making a reaction based on the immediacy rather than the long term? Yes, but at least for this shop, boy, the turnover is, fortunately we don't have turnover, because I'm such a big pussy and never call anybody out on anything, I guess. So everybody gets away with everything. But no, we got a great group. But it really, I've talked to other people about this, other builders, where you can't yell at anybody anymore, because they'll just go. But like,
that was years ago too.
Yeah,
anybody.
It's not yelling. It's not even so much calling out, but it's
holding people accountable is tougher to do as an owner now.
No, it is very
basically,
much so.
When I was younger, I knew exactly when I screwed up.
Yes.
I knew exactly what I cost the company. And today, you have to really like soften the blow for them and pump their tires the whole time.
Yes.
And it's fucking backwards.
It's exhausting.
But don't you? And I agree with you, John. But to combat that, right, the modern way of doing this would be to do it in small incremental steps rather than every 6 months you have this like formal review. It's just being in tune on a weekly basis. Like you see you're on the job site and you stop and you're like, hey, how you doing? What's going on? Like,
no, I feel like the flip side of that is to have a Rolodex of people. Like everyone says, always be looking. Mm-hmm. And if you wanted to really flip the table and do the opposite, is like, all right, this isn't working, and just literally turn the switch the same way. Because like when I went to college at Wentworth, they weren't telling you to have loyalty to your company is what I was taught forever. At that point, I was already 6 or 7 years into the business. And once I learned that my junior year, I was shocked by it. That it was like, no, your goal is to jump the ladder. Start at a company, work 2 or 3 years, and then jump to another company, but not go lateral, jump up a couple rungs. And you're going to do that for the next 3 to 5 years. So there was no loyalty in that original company that may have gotten you your start or your jump or your break. And,
so we're lucky. Whatever we're doing it's working, because our turnover is really kind of minimal.
Well, you said it. You said you were a pussy.
Yeah, that's true. I don't really like conflict. I really don't.
I'll be right back. You want another soda?
But what's the when did it change though for both you guys? Number of employees. When did you feel like that you have to then structure this review process when it wasn't like, all right, you know what, I've lost tabs on when this person's not happy anymore, and now someone has to tell me that they're not happy.
Right.
You know, another individual. You get me? Like, was there a magic number that like after 5 was like, all right, I'm not worried about that. Come October when we talk about this, hopefully you'll remember that we have to bring up these points.
Yeah, and I mean, I've always said to the guys, whether they do it or not, talk to me if you got something that I'm doing or that somebody else is doing, something that is disrupting the harmony of the company, then we need to talk about it.
Doors always open type of talk.
The door's always open, but I think it really, you say you're a victim of your own success. We are just so like, it's like a treadmill, and we can't hit the speed switch. We're just so over booked, I guess, constantly. You feel like you can just catch up, and then something gets delayed or something happens and you're hopelessly behind again.
So why can't you tell people no? I know I don't think that I fall into this category, but I know a lot of us can't tell people no. Is it because you have the mouths to feed?
No, I can't say. I don't like to disappoint people.
But we disappoint them in a different way.
Yeah, I mean, but so you're telling them that you're going to be able to get to it, or you're dropping the ball, or things are getting delayed, and the disappointment's still there. I feel like
I don't let us I don't let us deliver late. But what happens is the schedule ends up being this moving target where we're like almost daily trying to figure out, okay, which jobs need attention. And it's a little inefficient. But the problem that we have is that the builders can't really give us a real schedule. They'll tell us when they'd like to see things, but it's not realistic.
Are you making eye contact with me when you say that?
Liars!
The best part is that he's looking on his second screen. And
I know, so he's not actually looking at us. He's looking over there.
Your camera's over here, bud.
I like people to see my profile.
Yeah, this is my good side.
My wife's a barber, and she dialed me in this morning. The hair.
Just for the podcast.
I love how he said
you get a free bowl of soup with it.
Yes, I did. I'll tell you. So it's just way too hectic. We should take less jobs.
I mean, I guess that's what I'm kind of getting to.
Yeah.
We always feel as though we don't want to disappoint people, or we tell people that we can hit their deadlines or hit their budget, and then it just ends up, it comes down on our shoulders, or it comes down on our employees' shoulders, which I don't think is, and I think we've gotten into that because I think that we're providing for ourselves and we're providing for other people, and we need that work lined up, and it's very difficult to tell people no, but at the end of the day, sometimes that's the best thing that we can do for everyone involved.
Yeah. See, I don't know how, like, as a builder, you have this big global project, so you can do a, $2 million build or a $500,000 build, and that occupies your company, most of your people for a good period of time, and so and once you start it, your schedule is pretty predictable, I would guess. You know that you've got 6 months to finish this thing. When we accept a project that's supposed to start in April and it doesn't start till September, in the meantime, we're accepting, all of these other things, and we just sort of somehow figure it out. But our projects aren't nearly as big as yours.
But I feel like it's the same exact thing, though, where we are yesing people and telling them it's going to happen, and then it gets bumped because permits didn't come through, or approvals weren't done, or our foundation guy wasn't ready to go, and then it's just juggling things to try and still on the back end get that thing buttoned up when you're supposed to. And I think that from a schedule standpoint, there's so many moving parts that it is. I mean, I do basically one large job at a time, large for me, and it's still difficult to maintain schedule between, one person doesn't show up, or a sub doesn't show up, or materials are delayed, or you forget to schedule an inspection, and everything changes. And then if you're on the job and not just managing projects, it's very difficult to stay on top of that, to keep all your vendors informed and your subs informed, and you guys make it happen anyway. So it's like, hey, why do we have to tell the stair guy? He always comes through in the end. So like, we'll just tell him when we're ready.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah. Who's like the controller? Who's checking in with all the jobs to know who needs you guys sooner?
The project managers operate very independently, and then we meet once a week at least for we call it a production meeting to do the best job that we can, putting work orders to names of the guys in the shop, and it we do that every Friday. And honestly,
and then on Monday we come up with a completely different schedule.
That's what it feels like. It's because it's so fragile that if somebody twisted their ankle playing touch football over the weekend and can't, all of a sudden isn't able to come to work, then things we have to rejuggle all of those jobs. So it's just.
So what's their? They just check in with the site super or whoever, or are they actually driving by and calling people's bluffs?
Yeah, we do recons.
Because you almost have to.
Yeah, we go we'll go do a drive by and pop in unannounced and not even tell the super that we went there, and then we'll come back to the shop and report to each other. That guy's lying. He doesn't. He says he needed it. He doesn't need it.
6 weeks out.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would do it all the time. I'd be like, you know what? You'd hear from me. I'm 2 weeks. I'd be on the dry erase board. He's the always 2 weeks guy.
Yeah. Well, we used to have a dry erase board, and all the jobs. The PM was the header. So we had 4 or 5 PMs, and they had all of their jobs listed under their name. Well, somebody left. One of the PMs left. And we changed the name, the header on that to "not me." So the customer walks in, he sees the board, and he's on the "not me" column. He's like, "That can't be good." That can't be good at all.
It sounds like you're set up similar to a GC, though. You guys have PMs, you have your and then your production guys. Like similar how I have project managers, then I have carpenters that work under them. And, my project managers are reporting to me, and we're sitting down once a week talking about, it's just a longer duration. But, well, in a sense, to go back to something you said way earlier, is that sometimes your projects are a year long, where it's like you're on, you're fabricating, delivered, or you're working on would you call it a well opening. Mm. And you're in design, then it gets dropped, and then you're doing nosing and treads, and then you're doing balustrade. Like that's still a long project.
Yeah.
But what is the structure? So is it you two and then your project managers, or is there guys between?
I'm too young. I'm at the bottom of the.
Remember, his title is Snot-Nosed Kid.
Yeah.
So he's
still
up.
cutting his fingers.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what is the structure?
The structure is project managers who really, I have to say, they all do a really good job of operating between themselves, sharing resources, and operating very independently. Like I have to say, I don't really see every job that goes through the shop, because if it's a job that doesn't need my attention, and my role tends to be sort of process engineer, we accept jobs without fully having a plan on how to execute, which is a little unusual.
That's the creative in you.
Accept and bid and tie yourself to a budget.
Right. We'll bid. We'll put a fixed price on these crazy jobs that are just, so, I don't know, they're unique.
So unravel that. Unravel that that process. How are you taking something?
If I did all the process engineering before we submitted a bid, we don't get all the jobs. We probably get, I don't know, half the jobs we bid. And so if I took all that time to develop the process engineering, then I could be into a job for 2 weeks that I'm not going to get. So I do the best I can to think of what the potential problems are. I'll try to convince the architect to change details, and then we'll bid it with a good description of how things might change. Maybe we call the bid a budget, and that's actually something we learned is to differentiate between a price and a budget. Because a lot of times we don't have enough information to provide a fixed price. So all we can do is a budget or a budget range. And that gives us a little flexibility. If they decide that budget is appropriate for the project, then we can dial it in once they get closer to awarding it. So once I have a commitment, then I'm willing to put in the process engineering time.
And at that point, you're getting a more fixed number.
Yes. Yeah.
So you're putting a fixed budget or a budget at a project to be awarded it, and then working with the architect to essentially mold what you were thinking it would be built.
Make price meet product.
Right.
And this year especially, it's been happening the last couple of years. We've been convincing the architects or the builders to enter into a design contract. Like on the really crazy ones, you really want to have details developed enough so that we can actually bid it, or someone else can bid it. And we say that in the contract, in the design contract. You pay us $85 an hour, and we'll develop working plans for you. You can stop whenever you want. You own those plans. When we're done, you can send it out to bid to anybody you want. Typically, it ends up circling back to us. But it's a better way of doing it, rather than, because nobody wants to see somebody get in trouble. There's always you can always find someone to do it for a ridiculously low price, but they may not be able to finish. They may go out of business.
At that point, you're selling the learning curve. You're selling the learning curve, meaning that
you said lemon curd.
I mumble.
It's like, what the heck is lemon curd?
Do I look like a lemon curd guy?
I don't know. I thought it was some sort of industry term that I didn't know.
Curd?
Lemon curd. Let's look it up.
No, I think at that point, that's the whole thing of design build stuff, is that you've got the money flowing, and that someone's already caught up to speed, and they're basically on the pulse. I think a lot of people that lose touch on a design build are people that take a deposit and then actually don't follow through. Right. Like, hey, I want to get the design. When's that design coming? And people are waiting. And then that creates this kind of void. It's like, I paid into this. I'm not just sending an email to some rando. Like, I should be able to do this. And then that gets it going. And then that's what keeps that relationship going, is that you're basically always available, in my opinion, that you're able to dial it in and keep the momentum going, and that they don't want to then have to go start this all over again with somebody else. There's something to be said about that part of the process.
That's it. It's really a no-brainer. They've already created the relationship. You're throwing, dialing the budget in. They don't want to start up with somebody else. Now Chase brought StairCon, this design program, into the company, and so he can get a 3D model of virtually any stair developed in really efficiently. And it's more than just a pretty picture. It's not like SketchUp. It actually breaks the stair down into components. So that's a huge step forward for us.
I love that you have real models of stairs.
Oh, like the paper one of
yeah, we don't do those that often. That one is so cool.
I've looked into like 3D modeling so I can get houses that way, because I would just have them all over my office. Like, I love that stuff. Like, if I could have every house as a model,
dude, that'd be awesome.
It would be all of. I looked into it. It just,
dude,
it's not
possible.
possible.
Build them out of like balsa wood.
They don't give a shit.
Make them.
I try and pay them to build. Like, I have this project that has like a Lego wall with like little Lego rooms inside the wall, and I'm like, I'll give you $200 a piece to build these little Lego rooms.
They said no.
They got one
8,
they got
right?
one that's half started, 13 and 9.
Oh,
like and I'm like $200.
Yeah,
like I might do it for $200.
Right. I'm looking for some side work.
And these kids are like, nah, I got something to do. I got someone to text. I got something to play. And I'm just like, I want to.
You're gonna give me the $200 anyway, Dad. So
yeah, right. I'm gonna get what I want anyways. And I'm like, all right, go mow the lawn.
No, it's the whole thing is a moving target. Every aspect of business is. You think that it's going to get easier after 36 years, but it doesn't. It just gets different, harder, different.
Do you guys find that we talked about keeping tabs on employees and how their morale and all that is? Do you find you have to keep a better tab on it when someone new comes on board, or when someone leaves? Is there like that bubble where when someone leaves, it's like COVID, it could spread across the whole company?
There's always a concern about that when somebody goes. I've never had a mass exodus.
Yeah.
I've never had more than onesie twosies go.
Well, I feel like it's also what size are you guys right now?
Really like 16.
Okay. And Nick, you're at
19.
20. Today.
20
today.
Monday.
Today.
20 Monday.
So, no, today. I asked today.
19.
and Nick's and Tyler's at 2. I feel like that. Like, I had this issue with when it was a really small company. Is that like I was with a kid, Kirk, forever for 2.5 to 3 years. We hired somebody, Benny. Actually, we hired Benny, and then Kirk was like, "I'm not leaving Johnny high and dry anymore. He's got somebody to cover if need be." So he found his way out when that happened. When we hired Benny, it was probably like, I don't know, probably 6 months in. He was like, all right, I can start looking. And I could sniff it out. Stuff wasn't falling off. It was like, instead of like really driving through the last final hours of the day, like you guys know, like have an employee, some guys call it a day at like 3:00, they stay till 5. But the last 2 hours are just kind of like momentum rolling downhill.
Yeah, like you're recovering from lunch.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you get me? On a cold day, and you're like, I'm freezing now. I shouldn't have eaten lunch.
Yeah.
But it's that kind of stuff. So I just wondered if it's the same as if someone leaves, but also when you bring somebody on. Like we have a new guy starting on Monday, and I'm like, in my head going, we're going to 5 right now, and I'm like, do I bring everyone together? Do we kind of, And at the same time, I'm like, I don't want to bring everyone together because some guys are in Boston, so they're dealing with their own kind of bubble. Thinking of COVID, they're dealing with their own bubble. So if they get exposed, they're not exposing Metro West. So the whole company doesn't have to go into like a hibernation mode. So I guess like it's on the tip of my tongue. That's why I ask is like, and then I think of like, hey, at the same time, like guys, they're not going to leave because I have a decent pulse on it. But at the same time, it's like, are they going to be spooked that a position is going to get taken? Like, hey, should I be in jeopardy right now? Like, I forget what Benny said. Benny's like, we're hiring the new guy on Monday. Yeah? Should I be worried? And Benny didn't respond. Like, just like leave him floating for a good weekend. Like, like, hey, should I be? Because I had to talk with the same employee on Friday, and I was like, where's your spot here? Meaning, I don't know if you guys do this, but like I'll have a talk with somebody, and I'll put a couple of vague, talking points out, and I won't really make eye contact. I'll be looking at a building, whatever, and then I will turn and be like, hey, do you think you can run these 2 products? And then stare directly at the person. To be like, all right, that the other 2 questions were just to get a temperature on the situation.
You're priming them up.
But this one, I'm looking at every reaction. Do you make eye contact? Do you look at the ground? Do you feel confident in what you're saying?
Did you work for the CIA or anything? Or?
No. I just, it's what do I worry about in situations and conversations? And I look at eye contact all the whole day. So if my guy's not looking at what I'm looking at, then it's a problem. You get me? Like, I think you create what you do every day. People will follow along in your footsteps in the same, if I work a lot and I put the time in and I put the accuracy in and I deal with my clients till the very bitter end, then my guys will do the same thing. You lead by example. So I know I just was trying to figure out, we have a guy starting. He's obviously low man on totem pole, but
I don't think when we hire somebody, people feel threatened at all. We it's funny. We tend to add to the staff by, oh, look at that. Was that a chicken or a fish?
That's chicken.
Nice.
Good for you. We had pizza. It was good too.
Yeah, we did.
Tyler always gets it and he just starts eating. We never know what the menu is.
I ate before.
Oh, early?
So we hire by opportunity. Like people tend to like miraculously fall out of the sky and knock on the door, and they tend to be somebody that's will find something, will create a spot. But I find that when I put an ad in the paper or put an ad in on the internet, what falls out of it just isn't workable.
I put an ad in the internet. It sounded so believable.
That and Jobs RI or something, or even like the local trade schools. What shakes out of that tree is just never worth.
That's actually a great topic, actually.
Yeah, it's hard. It's you get people that will upset your current pay scale, for instance.
What do you mean by that?
Keep going.
Well, so you get could be a decent woodworker, cabinet maker with 0 stair experience, and they'll come in. They could be somebody that's been working as a sub or independent, and they'll come in and say, I'd be willing to start at $40 an hour, on payroll with and I'm assuming you offer full health benefits too.
Right.
No.
It's because they Googled salary.com.
Yes.
Before they walked in, and you're like, dude, that's a worthless site.
Yeah.
Okay? Straight up.
Is that on the internet? What? So that kind of thing is common. How much stair experience do you have? Well, I've built one. What tools do you know? The drill press. Great. Okay, you're hired. 40 an hour. But we got to get you down to 39 an hour.
Yeah.
So as you as the guy that doesn't push up against the waves, how do you handle that situation? Like, back in the day, you'd be like, dude, you're worth 15. Okay, smarten up.
No,
but today,
what? I tend to say, listen, if people are already employed, and this has worked really well, I'll see if I can get people to do take a vacation week and come and work with us for a week. And I'll say, I'm going to pay you $20 an hour. And so you're getting paid. You may not be getting paid what you want, but you're getting paid for your time. We get to know each other, see if there's good chemistry. See, you can, we'll sit down at the end and you'll see what you think you know.
No commitment.
No commitment.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, it is.
And it works. It really does work. I had a young kid come up from North Carolina who had his own stair shop. He wanted to relocate. He came up and worked for us for 2 weeks. And at the end of 2 weeks, he was the nicest guy. At the end of 2 weeks, he said, I know absolutely nothing. about stair building compared to you guys.
Did you keep him?
Totally worthless to you.
Did you keep him?
No, he went back to North Carolina, where he was. It's a different market down there. It's just different. So, and you guys know New England is notorious for being a really, tough craftsman, high quality market. So you don't see that when you go to other parts of the country. It's people's best work is work that you wouldn't even consider, trying to put out there.
It's so true. I've bounced around here and there over the last year, and I've more often than not been disappointed. Whether it's quality, even if it's in New Jersey, it's like you're always like, well, I don't know.
Messed up.
I just think everyone that John visited the last 2 years is like, whoa, is this guy talking about me? I thought
the Fox group was dialed. I mean, I'm not saying. I mean, it's different architecture. I don't want anyone to do that. AFT, all those guys are dynamite.
Clear the air, John.
when you're speaking to kind of the learning curve of getting into this, and stair building is its own monster, you had to start somewhere. You were doing furniture, and you took on a stair job or 2 stair jobs. And when you were at that 200-300 mark and you wanted to transition, did you bring people on who knew stair building? Was it all self-taught? Were you taking principles from furniture building and integrating that in? How did you kind of learn all of this? Because I mean, now I feel like so much stuff is super easy to learn, and there's a network and everything's very accessible. It would be much easier to learn at this point than it would be back then without bringing people on who were already specializing in this.
Yeah, we definitely, most of it was self-taught because we were woodworkers first. And so, we were good at making fixtures. We were good at understanding the limitations of bending wood and laminating and shaping and things like that. So it wasn't that much of a leap to be doing the stairs that we first started doing. And then the stairs just got more complicated. And so by then we had enough experience behind us. But I also, I'm going to say maybe 20 years ago, I joined this small stair building trade group. And so that put me into a network of advisors that just was so unbelievably valuable, including, being on the board of directors of that little organization. I mean, there might have been 150, 200 members. And we met, it was a national group. But I was on the board sitting across the table from, manufacturers that, were doing $20 million in turning, mass-produced stair parts, turnings, things like that. And they were totally willing to give advice on building business and dealing with employees, dealing with customers, and they were accessible, to talk to.
And that's an open organization, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's the Stair Builders and Manufacturers Association, SMA.
Yeah.
It is an open group. They do annual conferences.
It just seems like one of those things. I mean, every job's going to be one-off, but there's going to be, even from just a mathematical or geometrical perspective with curves and ellipses and everything else, there's stuff that somebody kind of helping you through that could save you years of your life and probably tons of money than banging your head against the wall.
We did it. We chose the head banging route.
I mean, I think a lot of us do for one reason or another, whether we're afraid to ask or there's not a network there. I just feel like in today's day and age, like if I were to land a job like that, I would have 6 people that I could get a hold of to help me through that. And I don't think that was necessarily the case back then.
Yeah.
Tyler, that's exact. I mean, we're in that exact position right now. We're building this elliptical staircase. I reached out to Chase, and Chase was kind enough to swing by. He met with Nick, and and Bill, you had a ton of insight into what they were doing on site. And, a lot of the things that they were doing, you up front, you said, hey, I've done that about 100,000 times, to only realize that, years later that was why it was so hard, to do it, to achieve the result I was looking for, do the XYZ. And the guys were able to learn from your mistakes. And I think that's, I'm guessing that's kind of what this group is. And I there's so many of these groups, like, Builder, like there's Builder 20 groups. There's all of these like networks that if you position yourself right with the right group of people, everyone is so open and willing to help each other.
They really are. And the ones that aren't, the ones that think they have
who gives a crap,
some kind of trade secret, you don't want to be friends with them.
But it's like, I totally agree, because, ultimately I always say it's like, if you're not going to give me the secret sauce, quote unquote, someone else is. And you should be in a position where you want to be the professional. You want to be the guy helping and sharing and guiding people, because if you're not, you become obsolete. You become the guy that, don't talk to him. He's never going to help you with anything. Talk to, this guy over here. He'll walk you through every step of the way.
Yeah, I like the idea of eliminating unnecessary suffering in what we do.
And you guys, you guys have really, you guys as a group have really, I feel like opened up that and started that kind of movement on Instagram. We've only, as a company, we've only been on Instagram for two, maybe 3 years. But, I remember in the beginning when I was starting, and I'm talking to Bill, and I'm scrolling through Instagram and looking at what other people are posting, and like, Dad, like the stairs that we build, like, you could get, people would really appreciate this stuff in the process. But then I started to see it as I spent more time on it. I started to see guys like you, Nick, that were really showing the process more so than just the finished product. And it's really made us, I don't know if we've gotten, I don't know how much business we've gotten from Instagram in particular, but we do, we've done a couple design consult jobs where we really do, guys are calling and asking, hey, how do we, how would you do this? You did one last year in Wisconsin.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah, we got one going on in Oklahoma, but
I walked this young guy through building a circular stair through texting and a couple of emails back and
For
forth.
anyone that can't see him, he's using his thumbs.
texting.
But it was fun. I enjoyed it. He was really jazzed up about getting technique that made it as easy as it could be, given what he had to work with.
So boys, this is what I usually throw at Nick, but
did you throw something at Nick's nose? By the way,
I know. Seriously,
it's from the gym, probably.
It's my dog.
Really?
Man.
Yeah, I was messing around with her on the couch, and I blew in her face, and she just went, cool. And my wife looked at me. She goes, Nick, this is the second time this has happened. Like, when are you gonna learn? I'm like, I thought I was being kind of funny, and she got me good.
Dog did not.
No.
Yeah.
I have a hole in this eyelid from her like 3 years ago. Well, It's not a hole anymore. It was a hole. Yeah. So
I would say don't do that again.
yeah, I probably will.
You know what? Give it a third try. Third try.
Yeah, I'll be blind.
But don't do that then. No. So one of the things I dwell on this a lot. So I want to jump ahead of it, is that like social media in general. So you were able to go and meet with Nick and help his team kind of work around that stair. But earlier in this conversation, we said we couldn't sit down with employees to get a gauge on what they're doing and get reviews and all that stuff. How do you balance that? Do you go and meet with this guy in Oklahoma or via text? And how do you chalk that up into marketing, that you're trying to get the next job, or you're trying to goodwill towards Nick that instead of having his crew do the job, they'll do it with you next time? Like, how do you find the worth in making those little, exaggerated movements in education, and how do you see the payback in that when you could have been working with your own crew internally, dialing in something that could have not grown into something bigger?
That's deep.
That is deep.
That's pretty deep. I don't know. Maybe it's more fulfilling to talk to a stranger in need.
I agree. I'm with you all the time. This is a serious question I have, because there's times where I'll have a conversation with somebody. I'll say, hey, just call me. And 2 hours later, I'll be through that. But on the flip side, I'm almost like geared up to take on some shit. Like, meaning that, hey, I was on the phone for 2 hours that I wasn't billable, blah, blah. So something's going to come down the line that I didn't catch that it's going to teach me to be like, you're foolish. Like, it almost acclimates my life to be like, all right, no, I got time for this. I can dial this in, and then boom, I get hit with something that's like, all right, the irrigation isn't working.
But if you had somebody who came to you, like this person who's coming to you for the stair, they had to put some effort out, and they had to show their passion, and they didn't just shoot you a text and were like, hey, can you tell me how to do all of this? And then you willingly opened up and just went. I feel like if an employee came to you with that same drive or that same need or that same desire and wanted you to kind of go in depth into that you'd kind of get up for that as well, and you'd love to see that. I don't think a lot of times that employees end up asking for more than that. Some do. I don't think that you're neglecting your employees' wants or their needs or not spending the time. I think that somebody coming to you and asking for help and being completely immersed in something and super passionate about figuring something out is different than giving an employee review. And that's not right or wrong.
But you and I both know that there's something new to it.
Yeah, like, for sure.
We've all talked to those guys on IG that are like all about everything that you want to have and all the information. Then a month later, they're not asking anymore. Now they're dictating that information that they just learned weeks ago, and they don't credit anybody. And the same difference is that I'm not saying, like, when you initially get an employee for the next 6 months, everyone's in that honeymoon stage. They're all keeping tabs. They're all, understanding what's going on. I'm saying that how do we value that initial concept where Nick reaches out or someone else reaches out in that honeymoon stage of helping someone's over, and how do we take that and value it more than looking at someone that's been with you for 6 years that's going through a hard time, where they could have, and this is 100% what I'm saying to myself, is that it would have been worthwhile for me to spend the last hour with that employee in the shop after hours, just dialing stuff in and understanding where they're at, than helping someone in Oklahoma that didn't pay me anything.
Oh no, we're getting paid from the guy in Oklahoma.
So it's awesome, but I don't get paid and when I do stuff like that. So it really, I have this one-on-one with myself after these conversations that I'm like, what should I have been focusing on personally? Yeah. Like home with my wife. I don't know. With my 13-year-old, separating him from the phone.
Not enough time. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm putting it out there.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is we're sending Nick a really big bill for all of that consulting that we did here. That
he's got it.
Me?
We'll just chalk it up to marketing.
put on layaway. Put it on the dashboard.
Yeah. No, I know the time thing is painful.
It's just funny. It's just funny what we value. You get me? Like that new question where you get to just really just throw around your knowledge.
It's funny, John, because like I wanted to say I disagree with you using the word what we value, but in a lot of ways you're right, and I think why I wanted to disagree with it is because it makes it sound way worse.
Yeah, it does.
It makes it sound like I value that, like, hopping on the phone or giving someone my attention over the fact that my employee's stressed out and hasn't seen his kid.
Yeah.
Or your own family.
Right. Or my own family.
I'm with you.
Dude, it's like when your wife gives you a look versus some random chick who's walking down the street. It's something new. It's exciting.
I think Tyler.
I'm oblivious to that stuff. I don't see any of that.
You know what I mean? You're
My
like,
wife-
"Ah,
my wife's
employee,
usually
that's
like,
old news."
Yo, she just checked you out. I'm like, which one?
Yeah. You're like, wait, I still got it.
Yeah. Or if there's a random dude that checks you out.
Exactly.
Nick gets it all the time.
That's even
That's
better.
old news.
That's even a better compliment. No, but John, I think like you like saying that we value it more. You're not wrong. I don't want to say you're right. You're not wrong, but
Thanks.
Just for my own
Way to clarify.
for my own sake, I'm gonna say you're not wrong. But I don't know, because I know you've asked me that, and I don't think I've ever been able to answer, and I continue not to be able to answer it. But it is, I think, Tyler, as funny as that was, like, I think that you're absolutely right. It's something new. It's like, John, I know you inspired me to do the same thing with, like, hey, I'm driving a hockey practice. If you want to hop on the phone, I'll help you walk through it. So it's like when someone reaches out with a long-winded DM, I'm like, hey, call me at 3:30. I'll be on the road. Yeah, and it's like, and it's the best thing.
It's ego, right? Okay, so if somebody
being the professional, right?
Up to you, yeah, and says, hey, I saw your work, and I really could use a little advice. Then yeah, I guess it's it is a little ego boost to think, wow, someone thinks I'm smart.
Well, it's crazy. I hate
someone
the word
thinks
ego.
I'm pretty.
But it's also probably the complication and the certainty part of it. I mean, like, would you rather talk to somebody about, walk them through a staircase that in your mind is probably a lot more certain than trying to, you don't get any kind of measurable return out of. I'm just
the HR side of things, right?
Yeah.
Like we didn't get into this business to be HR.
Yeah, but it is totally necessary, and I think about it. A lot. That if you invested some more into that side of things, you might have, people might have more satisfaction. But I don't know.
I mean, I think the root of it is, if I look back, it's I've been alone. That's why we started the podcast. When it's early on, when you had to read like Fine Home Building and then wait for the next month's issue to see what they corrected, and it was like the editor's list. And you're like, oh, see, I knew it, yeah. and it's like when someone reaches out, I feel like they're on the ledge when they reach out on social media or anything like that. So it's like I feel obligated that they don't have anybody else to turn to, because that's why they're turning to us.
That's what I felt like when Nick called me. Nick, just get off the ledge. Go back into the window. Come on.
To be fair, I asked if you could build it, and you told me to get in line.
I said,
and Nick was like, "What do you mean? You know who this is?"
I was like, all right, can you just tell me how to build it then?
No, you were like, let's confirm. You want to come meet me?
I think I said, I can think of 10 easier ways to build that stair, but I can't think of one harder way.
Right. And unfortunately, we asked the question after we started.
Yes, of course.
I don't know, man. I think it's funny, like, and I think it has a lot to do with the HR side of it. It's like we do this because of the craftsmanship. A lot of us get into this not because we want to own a business, but because we want to build something. We want to be creative. We want to be hands-on. And it's like when we get to help someone else be more creative. Like, I love the fact that, like Ken in my shop, everyone grain matches stuff online now and tags Ken because he's like the grain matching master. It's like, I love that because he's helped people.
Master again.
Master grain matcher.
With the master.
All right. Advanced grain matching professional.
Just do it like grain mechanic or something.
Grain mechanic?
Grainiac.
Grainiac.
What is it?
That's
Grainiac. Grainiac.
I like that one.
But it's like you create, like, I think some of it has to go to ego in a really good way, in the sense that, you're doing it knowing that you're helping other people be more creative and put out a better product.
Well, I think the ego part of it I have a problem with, because it's not like you're having a call with that person, then you're taking a screenshot of that and then posting it.
No, I asked him to leave me a review on my
but I guess that would be ego. I have no problem.
Account.
I just feel like the ego part is kind of null and void, because I don't want any credit for it. Like, I don't know if they're going to succeed or not, but I just want to. But even
if it's internal, right? Like, you hang up and you probably feel pretty good.
I just hope I can help. That's really it. I don't know if it's going to be what they need to hear, but I just
don't you
want them
like
to
it
be
feels
by
good,
themselves
right?
on a
Like,
ledge.
Yeah, it's that fulfillment. It's like that being, I may not have built it, but I was in a way we built it, and that's kind of the consulting mindset.
And there's no obligation too. Like sometimes I'll tell somebody to, before you put the lamination together, you want to condition both surfaces with plain yogurt so that the glue bites better. Now the yogurt doesn't really help the glue bite better, and it's a little messy. But it makes them go through a process.
Can't be flavored.
We chuckle about it in the office and wait for a day or two to see if they end up coming back.
I was sitting there going, I just hate the smell of yogurt. Like,
I don't know.
it's not going to work for me.
like Greek yogurt.
Like any yogurt. Like I had a client fall down the stairs today and spilled coffee, and I cleaned it all up all day. I smelled my hands with coffee, and I was like, I hate today.
What? I would love that.
Dude fell, put his foot through the balustrade.
Really?
What?
Yeah, we can blame
These guys
Will.
can probably fix that.
I know a guy.
Made it so smooth with socks on. The
Oh
dude
my
went
gosh.
down.
What a bummer.
Bill, I want to talk about that staircase. I feel like blew up, right? And I know we've talked offline
with
about-
every right too.
right.
Which one
it's
is it?
the
Stephen
Cedar,
Harris.
right? Did it?
Yeah,
Was it
Cedar,
Cedar
yeah.
job?
I'd rather give Harris the credit.
All right, Harris.
Nothing against C-Dog, but
Yeah, I love Stephen Harris.
Where can I find it?
If you go to I mean-
anywhere.
On our website,
I guess that
actually.
might be that.
Yeah, go to their IG.
See, I'm glad that you guys told me at the beginning of this podcast that you build stairs, because the first account I found that I thought was you was a hardwood flooring supplier. And I'm like, what the hell are we doing talking to a hardwood flooring supplier? Hardwood design company,
Well, you know,
HDI stair.
Texas.
We got a website very, very early on when the internet was I don't know, invented. Whatever. And so
What it was, dial up?
hardwood.com was
I don't know if you
male-
want that.
a male
like-
porn site.
Yeah, I don't think I
Oh,
want that.
really?
Oh my
There's always
god.
The fact that Tyler knew that was amazing.
young, muscular guys, the clients would be like, well, I looked at your website. I was looking for your website, and I'm not familiar with the internet, but it was disgusting. Yeah, but can you imagine that? That just shows of all, the hardwood lumber industry didn't get that site.
Right.
There's much smarter people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know if the Harris one is on your Instagram, or at least
I thought it
not
was.
rec-
I saw it.
Not
It's
recently.
HDI stair. Yeah.
Yeah, not.
I think it's on the front of the website. Front end of the website. Are we still connected?
Yeah.
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 We're all frozen.
Oh, you know what? If you go to Stephen Harris Architects, it's his sixth picture.
Harris.
Yeah, Stephen
No, but
Harris.
like the fourth
HR.
Is
post
it on
on
Instagram? Or
Yeah.
Nick, on the fourth post that these guys have up, it's there. It's the
It
model, and then the finish is the last picture.
Oh yeah, you have to.
Oh, I didn't
You
scroll.
have to scroll. Happy Friday.
My apologies.
Fourth post. Damn
So what do you want to know about that stair there?
Well,
you. Stair there.
there's a couple questions I got. Number one,
Is it fake? Is it all smoke and mirrors? Is it that new software you guys
Actually,
have that rendering?
That model actually we jazzed that up, and that is actually we put painting in
yogurt on it.
Yogurt.
Yogurt. Yeah. A lot of yogurt on that one.
yogurt on that one. Yeah.
well, no, I guess there's a couple things. Like number one, when we were talking about this internally, we talk about this staircase a lot, actually.
Yeah.
But how obviously Stephen Harris posts it, and and Cedar posts it, and it gets reposted a million times. But you guys built it.
You guys
Like
have credit.
the credit there, you
Well,
just don't
and
get.
Chase chased after the credit because it was posted on.
It was Harper Bazaar posted it,
Yep.
and so did Design Boom, both of which have upwards of like 3 million followers.
And so we didn't get any credit for it. So he chased those guys and got them to add us.
I don't even know if they added us.
So I guess my point is, like, you know, I think even as builders, right? Let's start, you know, the umbrella. As a builder, oftentimes like photos get posted, architect, interior designer, photographer. Yeah. And it's like, hey, we built that. And then we get the credit. And it's like, then I think to, you know,
dude, look at design magazines. It's usually design magazine. It's the designer and that's it, and the photographer. And you're like, yo, how'd that go together? Like, and recently we're posting something. It's like it keeps getting reposted, and you're like, yo, anybody?
Yeah, it's like go to Home Depot and hire one of those guys sitting outside there to build that staircase, and then photograph it and post.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like initially, I saw the Harper Bazaar thing, and I was like, you know, all kind of upset, being like, you know, why wouldn't they give us the shout out? But like Bill said to me, like, well, you know, the guy who deserved the real hero was the plasterer.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, but that put it into perspective for me, you know, because like I want them to shout us out, but at the same time, it wouldn't be fair for us to take credit for the entirety of the thing.
But that's what I'm getting at. It's like, and John does a really good job, like, you know, making sure that every post that goes up, like you're everyone that's involved. Like, this is who I brought together. And it's like, we've, you know, I think you're seeing that more, especially on social media. It's like, hey, these are the people that were involved. Like, here's my plumber that installed the faucet. Here's the countertop guy that made that custom countertop. Here's the guy that did the flooring here, and collectively, and like talking about the team approach. But it's so, it like stops with us. It's like the plumber might post, you know, his plumbing and tag us as the builder, but the builder's kind of trying to be the umbrella that the architect and the magazine and the publications are totally ignoring. And, you know, I guess it was more of a macro question, in the sense that, like, on your end, to see something like that, you know, literally like take over the design world.
It was really, it's really funny because it, you know, when we sit down and the architect or the designer will put, you know, inspirational images in front of us. And I've seen that as an inspirational image at 4 meetings in the last year. And it's really funny to, you know, like they say, we wish we knew where this stair was, or who did this. And I guess
like, I did.
It's, you know, in Brookline, you know, 4 miles from here, and we did that stair, you know, and they're like, what? So it's interesting.
I wonder how much of it is that old school scenario where I want to keep, you know, the best cards close to my chest. Where, what do you think?
Funny you say that, because we were looking at adding a list of architects and builders to our website, and I thought to myself, wow, then I'm really giving potential competition our client list,
a call list,
part of our client list, in effect. But what's funny is, even if we did that, that would be nothing compared to what you can extract from Instagram,
right?
Yeah,
as potential, you know, new contacts, clients, whatever.
I mean, that's a good point. Do you think that Instagram, like, do you think there's a negative side to this?
I don't think so, because I think people, you know, there has to be competition to keep us all on our toes. But I do find it really interesting that the direct contact information that you can get from Instagram, it's unbelievable. I just think that thread as far as you want to follow it. You know, you see an architect that you say that's somebody I should know. Well, then you can go to the architect's website, and he might list you know, in his portfolio, he might list the builders that did the project. So now you've got a new customer contact potentially.
I think it's kind of unique that in our market there's enough to go around, and I can comfortably say that. I think that, you know, I love the fact that if I look at, you know, my plaster or my finish guy being posted by somebody else, I think of the fact that maybe that young contractor, or even that seasoned guy, needed that one finish guy to really break through something.
Yeah.
You get me? Like, and I love that part of it where, you know, instead of driving around, it's the same as driving around. Who am I kidding? You drive by the KVC product that's 25 million. You know what? Yeah, I might take some photos of some trucks. I'm not going to lie to you.
Yes, of
okay?
course.
Okay? I'm going to be like, you know what? I'm going to take that guy, that guy, that guy, that guy.
And you know what's funny about KVC, CDAR, you know, some of the other big builders, this competition within the project manager group. They're really protective of the subs that they use on their jobs. And I just think that's so funny within one big company, that they don't know that we're the stair builder that does, you know,
that's crazy to me.
Yeah. Or, you know, like they've got offices in the Cape or you know, Boston,
New York,
New York, and they don't know that we do so much work for them.
I mean, we're straight cognizant of it. Where, like, if Benny has somebody, he's like, I love this guy. I'm like, I can't use him because between the two of us, we're not massive, but between the two of us, if we're running 5 or 6 jobs, you can bury a crew. Right. Let's say it's an electrician. Let's just throw that out there. All right, this guy's awesome. It's like, all right, I'm glad you think he's awesome. I can't touch, because if the two of us use him, he's no longer awesome anymore.
But he has more than 2 customers.
Agreed, but it's also the fact that you don't want all your eggs in one basket, and I want to be cognizant of that, because yes, it all sounds hunky dory, but anyone that's a professional in this business will think of the same way and go, you know what, I'm going to spread my wealth, just in case anything. I mean, it goes back to the old classic group. That shows my age. But like, they started and hammered out one job for the New Balance build, and they killed their entire everyday clients. Yeah. You know, they put all their eggs in one basket, and how'd that shake out? Yeah. I know so many people that lost money on that one where they just closed up the doors. But I respect, they were the Vana back in late 1990s, you know?
Back into the turn of the century.
Yeah. And it was like, that was the who's who, you know? But I think it's very interesting to see who posts what and who gives credit to what, because in my eyes, it's like you're confident enough, but you still hold it close to your vest, and the true people won't care, because the reality of it is the crew that's in your shop, the guys that we all have, work harder every day. That, yeah, I'll give you everybody. You won't put in the 14 hours like Gary Vee would say if I was still listening to his stuff, because it's the same thing over and over again. But it's like, you know, like, hey, I'll give you everybody. You still won't knock it out of the park. And if you do, dude, I'm happy to shake your hand. Yeah. Totally cool with it. You know, like, because we've all been there. You've been 35 plus years. You know what? I wouldn't even, I would take all your guys and go, Nick and I, we've talked about it. Hey, here's my tile guy. Here's my site guy. Guess what? He gave me his form guy lately. I have to manage that guy the same way as if he's a new person, not because he's Nick's sub. Mm-hmm. Because I can get a different result than Nick and his guys, Mike, than him being on my site for the first time. And that's the reality of it. So it's not that one trade that makes it a successful project. It's the wisdom and knowledge and management that goes behind it, and design and models and no models, or, you know, it's all that part of it that is the gray area that makes it successful or makes it a failure. And it's not the sub.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's all I got.
That's it. That was a lot. It was good.
Right? I should have shut down.
Oh, that was solid.
Well, it's so everyone thinks like honestly, in Wellesley, where we do a lot of work, there's a spec guy. I had this conversation today. Like, oh, you know this guy? I'm like, yeah, I know that guy. That guy literally started a business by a spec being started across the street from me, across the street from him where he lived. And he's like, all right, I'm going to take all these guys. And he just called all the people that were on the street in front of him, and he became a developer. Bro, you're not a developer. You're the guy that puts the floor heat too close to the wax ring, so when it gets turned on, it melts. Okay, you're that guy. Like, so you can't just hire all the right people and think it's going to be a success. Yeah. That's not how. And I think a lot of people, like you hinted in trade school, you know, I feel like this guy. So we just had a guy. You know, I'm actually not going to make the comment, but there's a lot of people that come out of college that want X amount of dollars because it's either a commercial kind of program, construction management, where the numbers are exaggerated, let's say, because they're hurting even more for skilled people or people that are hungry. And this industry is different. Like, you have to prove yourself in this industry. You can get away with stuff in commercial where you can kind of float along amongst, like, I love seeing resumes that say, hey, I ran a $25 million project.
Yeah.
I'm like, yo, you didn't run shit. You were the project engineer, and you were the guy taking photos from the same spot every week to update the photo booth. Okay. Like, there's a whole team. You got coffee for the managers and the assistant managers and the super. Like, you can't say that. Like, I think resumes are so fluffed up that, like, it's all BS. And it takes somebody like all of us to see actual skill there. Like, what do you value in a resume? I see just crap. And it's like, all right, what did you physically do? Like, what is it that you did that, and it's that follow-up phone call and walking through a site. Like, almost every one of our number 2 interviews is on a job site, basically because I want to see what their eyes go to. Not because it's like, all right, hey, what do you know? It's like, walk around and be like, what do you think? And honestly, like, the last guy we were hiring is like, he's like, this is the nicest house I've ever seen. I'm like, this is our entry level. No brag. It's just like, this is where you have to step up. You know, like, this is going to elevate your entire game. A year with us will make you learn 4 months with whoever you're with right now. And that's the reality of it. And it's really tough to recalibrate people that think a certain way because they're being fed certain stuff through whatever college it is, and they have to make up for their student loans and all this other stuff. And it's really tough to get people that are skilled that want to learn for the right fee that doesn't absolutely crash and burn a company. I'll take you and you for $100,000. It's like, all right, so I have 3 marginally skilled people for $100,000 a piece when I could have gotten some really skilled people for 75 and crushed it. And you don't know that until you're 7 months in. And you have an emotional connection to them. And then you don't want to have that confrontation and go, you know what? I'll just stick it out another year. You know what? It's Christmas time. I don't want to fire them during Christmas. Now it's New Year's. You know what? Before you know, it's Thanksgiving again. And then you're like, shit, they're 3 years in.
How about Easter?
Yeah, that's a safe one.
I think that people perform differently. I don't think that everyone shows up to your job and performs to the same standard just because that's the work that they want to do. I think that even different subs
but
will
you
perform. Yeah, but that's because, and that's why I have my own company. And that's why I own every job. But I don't think, there's certain subs that I know aren't performing to the level that they do on other jobs that I kind of demand of them on our jobs. And that's, they want to perform to a certain amount. They want to maximize profit. Everyone doesn't have that same mindset. So I think that a lot of times the work that you're getting is only as good as, like you said, John, your management or what you're demanding of them, because not everyone's an owner operator. A lot of people have employees, and they're going to do what they can to get done, get paid, and not get any complaints. And maybe that's not their best work, but you don't know that until you kind of push those boundaries or you demand that of them. And that's on you. That's up to you to kind of see where people fit and how they can perform. And that's not that person's not a hard worker. They don't want to do their best job, but they probably worked for a lot of contractors or worked for a boss that says, hey, this is the amount of time that you have to do this job, like, get out of there. And I think that it does require you to kind of manage them, especially up front, and articulate what you want from them and what your standards are and what your process is and how that job's going to look and how it's going to be different than other people's work.
And that's really hard to do. It's a great point. Like, Tyler, I value what you say a lot, where it's like, how do I disconnect? How do I hire PMs and assistant PMs that will have the same ethos that I do, where there's a whole nother model. It's like, hey, Nick, let me sign a prenup. No, I mean a subcontractor agreement. And it's like, well, you're going to read this and you're going to sign this from someone in an office, but the person that hits the job site has no idea about this agreement.
Never saw that, yeah.
And it's like, well, and then as none of us here, but like the PM or the super on the site is like, well, you signed the sub agreement, didn't you? Well, you got to pick up your own trash or I'm going to bill you. All right, do I want that kind of conflict in my job? That's the least of my worries. Like if the job is dialed in and it's absolutely amazing, you know what, dude, I'm happy to pick up some trash. Right. You know, like, but it's how do people manage projects today? I guess is the overall question. Tyler, you're absolutely right. But for everyone that's in this bubble, that's in between having 20 plus years experience, having their own company and having that kind of livelihood thing where people value the money, you know, where it's like, all right, well, this built-in's $3,500. Like, am I getting $3,500 worth of craftsmanship in this? Mm-hmm. Or is it just slapped together and I'm happy with it being done? That's the hard part to teach. You know, like what are people valuing? Like, you guys know it. Like, Tyler, the back of your head, you can walk through any job site and go, huh, this is this amount of money. I know what that, you guys would know, like, what stair costs. Like, you see the stair and go, all right, like, now I feel like you value every post I have.
But Bill's gut feeling is it's quite something.
Right? Like, but it's like, how do you, like Nick, for me, how does my John understand that? And for you, how does Mike get that? Right. You know, like when you kind of do all the behind the scenes stuff, and then you've left all the best players on the table to make it happen. Mm-hmm. How does it happen?
I mean, I think that you have to put, there has to be incentive for one, whether that's financial incentive, whether that's
personal,
paid time off, just the way that you treat somebody, giving them opportunity. So I think that you have to create that, but then a lot of that has to be that their personality type. They have to be the type that just, they want what they want, and they want everyone, you know, they want the best of everyone, and they want to see the craftsmanship, and they want, you know, they're not happy or content with just letting things slide and saying it's good enough, we're going to get paid from the customer, who cares. I think that you can lead a horse to water there, but it's, at the end of the day, that's you finding the right fit from a personality and a drive and a culture standpoint, more so than teaching somebody the trade. Like, sure, that type of person, you know, that person's going to be successful whether they're a carpenter, a project manager, a dentist, a ballerina. Like, that's just their personality type. And that's what you're looking for in somebody, because I think a lot of the rest of the stuff can be taught.
But I think it's, how do you get past that year, maybe year and a half, 2 year bubble, like you had it with a past employee, you know, like all eager, and then it's that honeymoon stage wears out, and then how do you keep that incentive going where it's not new to them? Same as what we talked about with that person that hit you up on IG or Oklahoma. It's like, all right, this is hot, this is new, you know, and then it's how do you keep it going?
And even we've talked about like you know, Bill's told me about in his experience the fact that sometimes when you find that person that is super driven and that is, you know, that seems to have all those same motives that you have, they're the most likely person in the group to you know, potentially go out and start their own thing afterwards. Very much, you know, so part of it is, you know, not only keeping them motivated and happy, but also keeping them, you know, incentivized enough to stay with you.
To a certain point, but we all know at that level there is a glass ceiling where they have to leave, and that might just be the journey they have, and you have to support that. Like, it's honestly, when I had a couple companies ago, when people left to go on their own, it's like there's only two options: either they stay here forever or they leave and go off on their own, and I'm happy to support both of them. It's not like you can be bitter, because then the animosity that you create throughout the rest of that company is like, huh, see how they left?
Yeah. Oh, he wants it all for himself.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you know, it's really,
No, it's really true.
I feel realistically that in our industry, it's going to be tough to find lifers. I think that you will, but I think in today's day and age, there's so much opportunity out there that it's going to be tough to find somebody. So I think that the best bet is finding that average lifespan of an employee, where they come in, where they can end, and how long you can maintain them, and figuring out how to roll with those punches to keep your company on that same level or better with that influx and turnover of employees. Because realistically, like, unless you partner with somebody, which isn't a guarantee forever type of thing, like you're going to have people come in and there's going to be people that leave. But I think reducing, like what Nick's doing with policies and systems, I think it's a lot of investment and it's very difficult. And I think it's tough to integrate into a business like ours where it's not so black and white. But I think that minimizing the downtime and the inefficiencies of turnover is going to be the best bet as far as the lifespan of a business, because none of your employees, I mean, it's going to be very rare that somebody's going to stay with you in our industry with the cap on pay and that's highly successful and highly motivated, where there's not an opportunity comes up for them that's better for them to make more money, to have more free time, to be able to do jobs that they want to do. So that's just something that we're going to have to learn to deal with.
Sometimes having compromising photos of your employees
Yeah.
help with retention. You have to, follow them around a lot. But,
I love how
we're gonna use that
into
for
the beginning. I love how into the beginning of that comment I was, and then I realized what was happening, and I got embarrassed.
It's true. I think that the majority of people who are going to be willing to stick around forever, and this isn't a dig at people, and this isn't all forever encompassing, but a lot of people who are just willing to sit around forever are just those type of people. They're not necessarily the go-getters or the
and that can
they're
be
comfortable
the person.
It can be, but
you need a certain number of those in your the critical mass of your operation.
For sure. And look at companies like Marvin, or like a larger scale cabinet company where it's production line type of stuff, where people come in, they know what they have to do every day. They're guaranteed a certain amount of hours. They're guaranteed a certain pay, and there's not much more to it. They leave and their work days shut off. They have their weekends, they have their holidays, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I think the people that truly want more, John, that you want to find and then train and keep and maintain, it's going to be tough, because I think that there's realistically opportunity for those people to be bigger and better than what you can offer them. And until you can offer something within your company, it's going to be tough to retain that. And I think that those people deserve to go do bigger and better things.
I'm with you. I think there's also the flip side of it is I'd also want to shield them from a lot of the overhead and stuff that happens, where it's like, hey, let's be honest.
Yeah,
I'm giving you the cakewalk. You just got to execute, have fun with the client and the subs, and everything else happens around you. You're not chasing down the next job. You're not chasing down the architect. You're not going through all the redundancy of updating budgets and all that stuff. That's all being taken care of.
Like your last job, if you had a better emotional, mental relationship there, would be like, I wouldn't go start my own company. From
Agreed.
Your opportunity, the jobs you were doing, and the pay scale. That's something where you could stay there and make that type of money and not have the responsibility, but it was a cancerous situation for you.
But if it wasn't, I absolutely would have stayed.
For sure, but there's not a lot of those opportunities there.
True. I'm with you. I feel like I just don't know how to keep somebody on board and educate them along the whole way, where, you know what, it's like, I'm doing 90% of the work. I just need you to execute this one thing without being a yo-yo, meaning there's ups and downs. That's what kills me, is that every Friday I feel like I need to fire everybody. And then I sit back, and I was just talking to Matt Sargent about this on the way home, and I'm like, I have to realize that my guys don't have 25 years experience. So I need to shut the fuck up and be okay with what's happening. It's part of the curve. And then until it hasn't been okay, I'm not saying rip it out mentality. It's more like I'm watering grass this weekend because I don't want it to fry in the sun, because the irrigation was 100% accurate after the sod went in. As if I was a PM, I would have been the guy. That's my grass. That's my lawn. I know it's for a company, but it's still on my timeline. I'm accountable for that grass. I ordered it. I set the crews up. It's my fault if it fries. So I'm there. I just think
that's personality type more than
agreed. But
teaching.
I should be attracting that personality as a business owner. Those are the guys and girls that I should be vetting. That's all I'm looking for. I'm not it's the same as a build, like we talk about builds, Nick, and having a client or an architect. It's not the build and the execution. It's all the same. It's really the connection that they have with me.
Right.
So if I'm interviewing people, I'm throwing out the skill. I'm throwing out what that is. It's the connection that they're going to have, and that want to, like, all right, I'm not just going to go home. It's Friday at 5:00. I don't care about the $6,000.
You got a date, man. You got a date. Like, you can't marry somebody unless you're on TV, you can't marry somebody without getting to know them. And unfortunately, that's just part of our industry. Like, you're not going to maybe find that person on the first shot, but you got to try stuff out. You got to date her.
I wish I knew the name of that TV show. What is it?
Like Married at First Sight or
I don't know. Bachelor, that's the one.
But
you have to.
I'm with you, but it's like, how do you keep that going? Because employees get comfortable. Like,
but
they
John,
get comfortable. Like I've had guys for 2 years.
Hold on. In that situation with the sod, what do you think the situation would change if you sat down and said, "Hey, listen, I'm going here. I'm going to water the grass. This is the right thing to do. Like, you order the grass, but I want you to be accountable for this next time. Like, I'll pick it up here, but because I think there's
the unspoken word.
This is what I'm getting at. I know this is what I'm getting at.
Do you have a bucket or a hose?
Hose.
No, but like yes, you
like a watering bucket.
You want it to be the unspoken word, and it's like it's like this. I say it all the time. It's like in a leadership role, a lot of times we challenge people, and we don't know that. Like, we only give them, like, hey, paint the door red, and then they go paint the door red. It's like, well, that's not the color red I meant. I wanted
red doors.
It's an example. Don't distract me. But the point, like, my point is like you're doing it to kind of in hopes that he's like, oh man, John's going there on a Sunday to water the grass. Maybe I should have done it.
But that's my management technique. That's my
it is, and I'm not saying it's wrong. But do you think it would be it would correct his approach if you said, hey, listen, like, the right thing to do, you order the grass, the sprinkler wasn't spraying in the right spot, you knew it, and instead of me going there, I hired you as a PM. Like, you need to get into that mindset that if that grass died, that's on you. And having that conversation, like, maybe it's that. Maybe it's the reset switch he needs.
But the other fact of it is that maybe that's going to take 2 more years for that to sink in. Like, when I left, when I got to that job at the end of the day Friday, and I saw the sod, and I saw it wasn't power raked, and I was like, it's uneven. I got 2 things that I called about, worried about, and then everyone takes off. The landscaper takes off. Sorry, boys, it's nothing to do with cabinetry or stairs or anything like that. But it's like,
I'm learning something.
But it's like I pull up there and I'm checking out the job, and the landscapers leave. So the PM has let the landscapers off the job. 8 guys just leave. Manpower is now driven away for the day, and it's before a long weekend. This is when you really truly test anybody as an employee. Is hours before a long weekend to see how much they devoted to it. And then he leaves. I get in my truck, and I did the same thing I always do. Get in my truck, pretend I'm leaving, and I never start the truck. I wait till he drives away, and I see all the dust getting kicked up by all the cars. I then find a broom, and I sweep the entire street, because you can have an impression of the grass getting put in, but then it can get automatically trumped by the fact that there's dust and no one swept up any of the street. Like, that's, Nick, to your point, that's the absolute first strike, is that you're taking the idea of getting something done as actually the accomplishment.
I agree, and it is a management style, and I do it too. It's like I test people, and when they fail, it's like it's your immediate reaction is to be like, why? Like, I need someone that's going to do this without me asking, and and you just said it. It's like it might take him 2 years to catch up to what I'm doing. But if you address it right then and there, like, dude, like, the street's a mess. Like, you're going to totally ruin, everyone's going to drive by here, and you think that they're going to care about the grass, but they're actually going to care about the fact that there's dirt all over the street. Like, it really should be cleaned up. I got it. Like, I'm here. I'm going to sweep it up, but, like, you need to be on top of that. If you called me and said that, number one, I would have turned around. But number two, it would have never happened again. Instead of waiting the 2 years that I would eventually click in my brain saying, now I get it.
Yeah.
But I get, like, trust me, like you're sitting there holding your breath. It's like,
I'm not holding. I'm breathing.
Well, you're making the face like you're holding your breath. But it's like, I get it. It's a management tactic, and it's challenging. It's almost setting people up for failure. Like, you knew 100% that he was not going to sweep that street.
Hold on, because they're already left. But part of this is it the first lawn they put in? Not the first lawn.
You're going in the other direction here.
No, I know. I'm just trying to paint a picture for everybody that's listening. It's like, all right, so that was my expectation, is that we've known that I've swept many a street to set that expectation. So the fact it's still not getting done, my takeaway is, yes, I could create that confrontation right now, which then gives him the ability to also have the confrontation back. So to me, it's like, I haven't done a good job of dictating the pace. So I own the fact that I have to sweep that street because I haven't done
it. Ultimately, that's what I always say. I own everything. I own everybody's mistake.
Yeah. So it's like, I can't get upset. It's just like, how do I do a better job of this? And I've stepped away a little bit more, so I'm comfortable with what I'm left with. But I'm still disappointed to the fact that where we're at. But we're talking about in the beginning of this conversation is, how do we gauge employees and how they understand what they're happy with and they're not, and how do you keep a tab on them? And for me, that's how I've kept a tab on the situation, is that for me, I haven't done a good job of managing of this person because expectations weren't met, and those expectations were mine. It's the same as your staircase back in the day. We never told them how long it to take.
Right. But I also think that it's also because those expectations weren't communicated.
Agreed. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
And
you never told him how long it should take.
Right. And you never told him that he had to sweep the street. It's like you were hoping that they would learn through, seeing you do it. Where it's like they don't even notice that you do it anymore because it just happens. I came back from a long weekend, the street swept. Or, oh yeah, Johnny had I remember, that first time we did the lawn, I remember John sweeping. I wonder who swept it this time. Like, it's totally in their peripheral. They're not, like, it's not something that they're noticing, where I don't know. This is something I've battled with. This is something that I've actively, like, worked on in my personal and professional life, is that, like, making sure that
I just thought of your wife, like, you sweep the porch off every hoping that sinks in.
Meg, I sweep the porch off all the time. Like, you know what? I expect you to sweep it off before I get home. No, but it's just.
But I also think that to the flip side of that is not having 15 employees. There's less of a gray area in between. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I get what you're saying, and
don't be hurtful. Be gentle. Be gentle right now.
Be very
gentle. You have to be gentle.
Bill's like, it's not even directed at me. Beat him up. I really disagree, and only because I've been like I struggled with it so hard, and I was constantly disappointed with people, and I was constantly in this mindset of like, maybe they're not the right fit, and then only to come back and finally realize that maybe I'm not doing a good enough job setting expectations or communicating expectations, and it goes back to like building the policies and all of this stuff. Like, yeah, John, I agree. All of that stuff is shit when it comes down to it. It's all paperwork. But what it is forcing me to do is really understand that this is the role of a PM. This is the role of a lead carpenter, of a carpenter. Like, and then when we come to situations where it's like, hey, who sweeps the street? It's like, dude, I don't care who sweeps the street, but ultimately, this is your job, your responsibility. It has to get done. And if it doesn't get done, like, and just being like overly communicating that stuff has just, it speeds it up, because like ultimately, John, like you get to a situation where it's like the guy doesn't stick around because he just doesn't hit your expectations ever, and you got to get rid of him, or it takes 2 years for him to catch up and finally catch on.
But is that? But my point
both
is,
of those scenarios,
is that okay?
No.
It's 2 years. Why
No,
not?
The way it is, and let's not forget that
because
when
you'll be so frustrated all the way along the way.
when you introduce a policy, or you everybody agrees on a policy, it takes constant reinforcement of that policy, and people, because people will revert back to the easy way or the old way
Yes.
in a pretty short amount of time, and that you can't let that get you too frustrated, because it just is the way humans think or something. I don't know.
Bill, do you read?
Do I
Like,
read?
Yeah, like books.
Not big words, but I can muddle my way through the small.
Well, I'm reading a book right now called "Bringing Out the Best of People," and you just literally took an excerpt out of that book where it talks about setting policies, but there's this thing that we do, and John, you've called me out for before, is that you set a policy and then you basically just distribute it and then see who sticks to it, but they all revert back to what they were doing before. The constant reinforcement is the key here, that and that's frustrating in itself, but if you're constantly reinforcing it, whether you're measuring it, whether you're sitting down for your review every 6 months and saying, hey, like, remember we put this policy in place and this is what you're supposed to do every Friday morning. Well, out of the last 26 Fridays, you've only done it 6.
But you know what? Tell me if I'm crazy. It's okay if I am.
You're crazy.
I feel like it's the same as saying to our clients that, hey, on page 5 of the contract, that was exempt.
It's not.
Yeah.
Why isn't it? Like, why isn't it you haven't educated that client enough throughout the process for them to understand it, and you haven't set the right tone?
Well, all right. Let me change my answer. Why is it wrong to refer back to a contract?
Because I as a small
hey John,
company,
you sent me an invoice, but it says net 10 on it. Like, why is it net 10? Well,
that's kind of miscellaneous. I guess I'm just trying to, when you get in the weeds of it, where it's like I want to make sure that a client. It's the same as like, do I call the company line and do I dial 104 for Nick, or do I just call and get me every time? When I'm a 5-person company, I feel like there should be a little bit more intimacy than, and again, fine with being wrong, so lay it out there and hit me with it, is that like there's an intimacy about how these PMs and even my subs and everyone understands the project.
It's not wrong to want that. It's just wrong to think that it's going to happen.
Well, I also feel like if I wrote the process that, hey, the street should be swept in some sort of a process, which I've written for other companies, that I'm naive for thinking that that's going to be enough.
But it's black. You're looking at this black and white. The gray is that you're reinforcing it. The gray is when you're calling them and be like, yo, like, the street's not swept, long weekend, like, the grass looks great, the yard looks like shit. That's the reinforcement. It's like this.
Yeah, with two different managers, I'm not going to make that call.
But you're putting yourself in a position to be let down over and over, to hopefully get 24 months down the line when he learns it. Where it's like, if you made the call,
you're accurate with that.
If you made the call, he might do it one more time, but you make that call the second time, he's like, yo, I'm never gonna forget to sweep the street again.
Or he does it and doesn't do it and forgets and knows that he's on the bubble and he's gonna leave. And then at that point, then
he's left anyway.
His determination for that. Yeah, you've dealt with that more. I don't like when people leave.
Neither do I. I've dealt with that more because we've had more people.
Bill, don't tell me you have cool confrontation. Okay, you and I both are on the same page here, where I'm like, all right, I'll just sweep it again, and I'll probably sweep it for the next 4 years, like Telich and everyone else we've had in the podcast, because that's an easy out. Is sweeping.
You know what? I tend to be the one that takes the toilet scrub brush and scrubs the shotgun blast in the back of the toilet.
What's a shotgun
cleaning
blast?
up after yourself.
It's shocking. Sometimes I want to photograph it and just email it to everybody and say, "Really? Someone actually left that."
It's funny because there's a tattooer I know, and he was at a shop forever, like 20 years, and he basically was the owner of the shop, but didn't actually own the shop. And he was in charge of hiring everyone to come in and ran everything, tattooed also, but he always had the worst shifts. Like, it was a walk-in shop, so a street shop, had the worst shifts, And then he was always cleaning up everything, cleaning the shop and cleaning the bathrooms. And it got to the point where after 20 years, he left and went to another tattoo shop because he was just like, that was his role. And everyone assumed he was going to do it. And he continued to do it. And he had no out within that company because that's just what he had been doing for so long. He actually had to make like a switch where everyone thought he was a lifer, and he switched because like that's just, he always had the worst shifts. He always cleaned up after everyone, and he couldn't get out from under himself doing that. And I think
when it gets taken care of, people don't think, gee, I guess I should have done that. They think,
it's just taken care of.
They're taken care of. Yeah.
And like sometimes that's just what happens. It's the same thing with my kids. If I clean up after them every day, my kids are never gonna be like, you know what? Dad picked up 350 markers that we threw all over today. Maybe next time we'll clean them up. They just leave them down again. It's the same thing. Like somebody else picks up the slack so they don't have to. And like, realistically, I think that's most often the case. And I do the same thing, John. I'll be out either loading or unloading my truck or setting stuff up or writing a list. And I think to myself, there's so much opportunity for somebody to step in here and do this, but I don't always ask for it. And I just assume or expect or unfairly compare what I would do to what somebody else would do, where realistically I should just be like, hey, listen, I don't want to be doing this every day. This is something that you're more than capable of doing, and it would help me out a ton. And then I think that I would have a better chance or opportunity of that happening than if I just went without saying anything.
This is going to be awesome because this is weird that an employee will listen to a podcast and be able to look back at a situation and a conversation that's coming and be able to hear the whole thing after the fact.
This guy is going to quit tomorrow.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about it.
No, wait. I'm going to go in.
John's going to get a Home Depot receipt for a brand new broom.
He's already fluffing up his resume, dude.
No, he's not. I feel like I will have the conversation tomorrow just so I can understand the tactics that you guys are saying, and that I'm not being absolutely
But John,
foolish.
like beyond him and beyond that, I think the biggest benefit to it is in a lot of times we like in that situation, like if you were to go into confrontation, right? Like everyone handles it differently, and it's like, you probably get, at least for me, it's like I get the anxiety jitters, right? And because we go into it thinking the worst. We go into it thinking like, this guy's going to quit, this guy's going to blow up and flip out, this guy's like, that's human reaction. And in order to go into that situation and force yourself to think about like, hey, like we're going to sit down, we're going to have a good chat, and this is going to fix it, and I'm going to feel good about it. And most of the time, at least from my experience, most of the time it goes better than expected, and there's a weight off of my shoulders, and I feel better about the situation.
I'm still hung up on it. I mean, I've been managing people for at least a decade, and it's worked for me long term to keep long term employees on the right path.
But you're worried that he might leave because of confrontation. What do you? What's the worry then?
The worry is that you're creating this dynamic that isn't necessary. It's the same as having confrontation with a client. Is that when you've elevated to a certain level with a client, let's say you were to get in an argument with a client, that should never happen.
Agreed.
It should never happen. So now I'm gonna create an argument over something about a street sweep.
But why is it an argument?
It's more. No, I'm opening it up to be said argument. My point is that I should look at it as a flag.
Sure, but maybe it's an unfair flag.
What do you mean?
Maybe it's unfair because he didn't know, and you wanted him to know, but he didn't. I mean, we're kind of going in a circle here, but you're considering it an argument where it's like shift that thought and like, hey, this is an argument.
How many times have you been on that side of it where someone calls you and goes, that should have been done?
A lot.
There's a difference between being told what to do and being an understanding of what the overall vision was.
Sure.
And accepting a vision is better than accepting what you're being told.
Sure.
And that's where I have the hang up, is that I
deliver it that way though.
No, I will. And I think it's, for me, it's leading by example, that before he pulled down the street and left, I may have been sweeping the street.
Sure.
And that's how I want to leave that message.
Mm-hmm.
And if it takes another 2 sod installs.
What if you didn't get in your truck?
How about the flip side? How about I need to understand the fact that maybe he's got too much on his plate, and that I need to get him a superintendent to handle some of these other burdens that shouldn't be on his plate. And I understand that as well.
That's fair.
And that's where I'm at, where I get it. It's like, it's another sign where if it was done and he stuck around, or I got in this confrontational situation for him, that I'm not doing my job going, you know what, let me try a super. And that's, we've had this conversation. I'm gonna do this with you. I'm gonna get a superintendent. This is what the salary is gonna be. This is what the overall overhead for your package, you being an assistant PM, this being a superintendent, and this all happening. This is the overall package I'm willing to invest in. This is the conversation we've had. And it's not like a conversation. I'm like, I'm gonna give this a shot, because every person's different. I'm like, this is my move to make you the most productive and make it easier for you to do your job. That's the talk. So
I think there's a lot of you put a lot of thought into the negative that can come out of it, where it's like, even
because it's so fucking critical.
Absolutely, but even to
once
look
it
at this
gets
as
in, it's like a fucking virus.
So let's back up. Don't get in your truck. Just grab the broom. Don't there's no thought. You put thought into the fact that if you grab the broom before he left,
I want him to leave.
Right. That's the key. If you didn't and you just grabbed the broom, he'd be like, oh, you know what? I didn't even think of that. And it's like, you wanted him to leave because it was a test, and it was a test that he failed.
Everything's a test.
Right.
Where have you been?
I know.
That's been since the beginning, man.
Since the beginning.
It is. I get it. I just and John, your management style is not wrong. It's just and yes, you have managed for, I was gonna say far longer. That would be rude. You've managed people longer than I have, and that I'm just sharing what I've learned and what has worked, for them, but also for my own anxiety and my own, growth.
But if you were on social media less and you could take more time with your employees, would the short and sweet work, or would the long investment work better?
Short and sweet, get it done. I truly believe that. I mean, having the car, and it's delivery though.
No,
I'm not an asshole.
It'll change.
All right. Thanks for listening, guys. Bill, it's past your bedtime. Are you tired?
I know, he's getting drowsy over here. I got him a few beers.
You said it was soda.
He was hydrating. It was Bud Light.
Soda. I meant soda. Fanta.
Well, I saw you drinking Bud Light. I was like, is he drinking Pepsi?
You know what these kids call regular Bud?
Bud Heavy.
Bud Heavy. Yeah. See, now I drink IPAs. I would never drink this. By
Seriously.
Put it in front of me.
Yeah. What do you got?
A little cloud candy.
Oh, Ken had that.
That's good. And they got Johnny Hammer, which is a triple IPA, which will put you on your ass. Had that on vacation.
Yeah, you know what it is with the IPAs though? The gas that it creates is unbelievable.
Really? I had this conversation with my wife on vacation that I want to take.
And you're complaining about cleaning toilets.
That's what I was going to say.
No, you got to watch out for bed fires.
Bed fires.
You don't want to go to bed after, a 6-pack of IPAs and have a candle.
That's aggressive for a night.
Yeah, right.
6-pack. I keep saying to my wife, I'm like, I want to take these 18-ounce guys and make those little tiny Pepsi cans for kids, and make those for IPAs for adults, for dads that can't handle a full 18 at night. Recan them so they're the little ones. That's all I need.
That's a pretty good idea,
isn't it? So someone else can steal that idea because it's on the podcast.
Dude, we dropped so many.
So much knowledge.
Yeah.
Well, Bill and Chase, I appreciate you guys coming on.
Hey, it's really been gripping.
Thanks. I hope you learned something.
With a sense of sarcasm.
No, I appreciate like you. I love the fact that you know, the connection to furniture making, but taking stairs and taking a more artistic approach and obviously improving upon what was built so differently when you started, and and I think really attributes to the complexity that a lot of these stairs have become, and more so a focal point. The stairs are not so. It's not so much a utilitarian piece. It's something that is celebrated in a lot of these homes, all the way from say a more inexpensive home, all the way up to the more elaborate ones, because the technology is there to do this in a manner that is more feasible.
Yeah, and I mean, we're lucky to live in an area where the concentration of wealth and willingness to spend it is there,
and knowledge, craftsmanship.
It's wild. But one other interesting thing is the trend toward contemporary designs. Do you guys do mostly traditional?
I do a
designs
lot, or a lot of modern.
A lot of modern, right?
I do a mix.
And so we're just seeing this huge trend towards modern designs, super clean lines, following riglets, across the whole house, having, these, treads and risers there's no, like the angle back risers and glass and all of this other stuff. It has, it's something that is a lot harder to execute than it looks. And the skill and planning required is so much more than traditional stairs. I mean,
might have to start doing it on site.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm telling you, it's painful. Like I would take a traditional circular stair with every other baluster, different rope twist, complicated rail profile and fittings and goosenecks and reef fittings. I would take that over these glass and metal and all of these designs that there's no layering. You can't make up for any irregularity.
Sounds like there's a hole in the market for a more modern stair maker.
Yeah.
You know what's funny is I'm reading a review from the survey. I've listened to every one of your podcasts, and I'm not understanding why the top 3 podcasts have craftsmanship, but I keep listening to the contractors who share nothing of craftsmanship.
And where are you reading that from?
We have a survey, and it keeps going pretty in depth, but I'm kind of hung up on that first sentence.
Wow. How many viewers does the podcast usually get?
None, because it's all audio.
5 or 6.
Listeners, bingo, got him.
I don't know.
Do you know?
Not
Is
right
it
now.
60,000.
It's like 60 to 70,000 a month.
Really?
Downloads, not listens. So that's just people that download it. Then you have the listeners on top of that.
Wow.
People have boring lives.
So this is gonna make us big, Bill. This is what's gonna skyrocket us.
This is the turning point, guys.
Don't forget.
So,
I think Bill's gonna skyrocket.
We just make sure you guys sign that contract that we sent with the percentage on the bottom.
Yeah, what's going to happen is they're going to say there was this stair-building dude that volunteers to help anybody who calls.
He's super artsy.
everyone's gonna say, you know what? I'm getting into stairs. Forget carpentry.
Yeah.
I'm just doing stairs.
Good.
You need to start doing stairs on boats.
Yeah.
Did you see? We
It's
did
like
have
one
one
stair on both, right?
post on Instagram where he built. I was too young, but he built a stair in a house that was then put on a boat and sent to Thimble.
Oh, the Thimble Islands, yeah.
Thimble Island.
5,000 square foot house built on the bulkhead under the bridge in New London. They slid it off onto these two barges and then towed it out to this little rock island off of Westport, Connecticut.
That's amazing.
Slid it off
Crazy.
the barges.
See, that's the beauty of social media, man. That should be published. Like, instead of it just being between you, the barge guy, and the contractor, it should be all of us being
On
able to see it.
Instagram. Yeah.
Yeah, people were pretty fired up by that one.
Yeah.
That's pretty badass.
So Nick, tell me about your why did you choose to build those elliptical stairs on site instead of reaching out to a stair professional?
It was T&M.
Well, it was a very after the fact thought. So we got hired to do just the kitchen in that project.
Yeah.
And I was on site with the homeowner, and he's like, I really want to spice up this staircase. I hate that, I want to connect my basement, and I just hate the way that it just closed off. And it was, a conversation. I said, it would be really cool if we straightened it out and we put this ellipse in it, opened it up to the basement and to the second floor, so you had this pass through. And he's like, sold, do it. And it was, we were in the middle of framing already, and we had to jump right into it. And it was just a schedule standpoint, and we collectively talked, and we were like, well, there's a couple things that led to us doing it actually. We could reach out to someone to do it. We figured it was probably not going to fit into your schedule, but secondly, it was during COVID, and one of our Boston projects got shut down, and it worked out where it was enough to keep our guys busy without shutting down.
Yeah.
We definitely lost some money on that one. There was a lot of rework that, kept going back against, we're absorbing it. You guys were gracious.
You're talking it up to marketing, right?
Exactly. Truly.
We budget is exhausted.
At the end of the day, we know that this is going to be an incredible part of the home. It'll photograph well. We had it rendered, so we knew what it looked like. Like, there was just a lot of things that, we basically collectively as a group said, this is going to be really fun. It's going to keep us busy, through this COVID until we don't know when our other job's going to come back online. And, let's go for it. I think going forward, I think we'll definitely consider working with a stair builder. I said, we all kind of agreed that it would have been better to build them in the shop. We have a bag. We could have laminated those stringers in a bag, but we didn't have we don't have the space to build a temporary wall, so we couldn't do it in our shop. I see a tremendous amount of benefit to doing shop build. The risers, that are CNC'd out, like, all of that makes sense to me. They're structural skirt boards, like, all of that makes sense, and we're not set up for that. And I like to build a better product, build them in the shop. That's why we would ultimately work with a stair builder. We actually have a project that I need to send to Chase. So
I'm just going to forward it to him. So
then I'll send it to Bill. I'll copy you.
Yeah.
But that's truly it. And I think, Bill, you and I chatted maybe 2 years ago about another, like, a U-shaped staircase. And that's the one that you originally helped me with. And I worked with Matt Kennedy on the handrail.
Oh, right. Matt's a great.
And yeah, very talented. Actually, he's supposed to be on the podcast. And that was the same thing. It was, the architect on that job had designed a curved staircase. The client didn't have the budget for it. And they sat in a meeting, and I'm like, why did you draw that? Like, that, they fell in love with it.
Yeah.
And it was 100% like, we chose to do it at absolute cost, and we committed to a cost, which we blew, because the clients were they were great, and we chalked, and it was 100% marketing, and we built it so incredibly complex, like this insane flitch beam that, like, went up and through the it was just wildly complex.
Yeah.
But it was fun.
I saw it, and it's funny because, like, I don't, like, as far as stair building, even the curve work, I always say, like, people will say to me, like, well, you must know calculus, or you must know trigonometry. There must be a lot of math involved. And the fact is that was not my strong course in high school. In fact, I had to drop that one.
Yeah.
So it isn't, stair building is, it's 50% layout and 50% method. And that's all it is.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because I remember watching
oh God.
Kennedy do a handrail at one point, and when the parts are square, you really understand how they connect, because there's these corners that basically you follow that path, right? And then he throws a router on it and it becomes a round handrail, and it's like, whoa, now I don't understand this. But when you talk to him, he has that, he basically like looks off into space and he just understands what he's looking at it and the connecting points. And I think that's what's so interesting, and I want to unravel that with him. It's just like,
but it's all method. Like I had an addition I put on my house, and I had to cut in uncommon valley rafters, and that square, the table on the framing square, that means nothing to me. I don't know how to use it, so I used I got the job done. It took a long time. Didn't come out as good as somebody that knows that cuts roofs in. But the point is, if I had known the method instead of like ham and egging my way through the whole process,
right,
it would have been a better experience. So that's all stair building really is, its method. The problem right now is the designs are really getting so crazy. You have to really extract methods from so many different projects that you've done to figure out how to not get in trouble.
Yeah. They get to a point where they become, it gets to a point where you can build it, but how is it structurally supported?
Yeah.
What's holding it up?
Yeah. Do you find you guys selves doing a lot of GMPs? Like, is it guaranteed maximum price, or are you doing cost plus for your contracts?
All fixed price.
Really?
Yeah. I've never heard the term GMP, but we just we throw a number at it. We have a fairly deep Excel spreadsheet that we have as many data entry points as we can take the time to put in. So we break the job down into as many tasks and components as we can, and then it spits out a number. But the funny thing is, at the end of after you've gone through the exercise of pricing it, and it spits out that cell number, you look at that number and say, well, that's way too low. So you end up adding fluff to items, or you look for, what did I miss? Why does that seem so low? Or sometimes you say, gee, that seems high. I didn't want to go over 200 or whatever. So the estimating tools, and I think this holds true for what you guys do too. You have as many data entry points as you can, and then there has to be some gut in there, right? If you really, really need the job, you keep it close. If you think that you're leaving money on the table, you add money. But these designs that we're getting, we're in trouble on one.
Yeah, I know. And he talks about how you got to, like especially dealing with so many unique jobs that, like you said before, you kind of make up. You're not even sure how you're going to do it when you give them fixed price. You got to have some that are home runs and some that are, total losers. But the home runs have to be able to make up for the losers.
Yeah. Yeah, if Nick, if you didn't have so many jobs that you chalked up to marketing, you'd be retired right now.
Probably have my mega yacht.
Yeah, no, but it's we had this
mega yacht.
Yeah, I'm on a mega yacht kick.
Yeah.
Really? That's awful.
It is.
So,
Chase, what's your goals in the next couple of years?
I have a lot of goals that are all seem very unattainable.
All right, give me the closest one to obtainable.
Well, my thing is that I'm young. I'm early 20s, and I actually only recently started within the last couple of months. I recently graduated and started here full time. I've worked here as many summers as I could, so I have the experience, but I'm only just getting into the whole
the full time, this is real life. This is the real world. You're not going back to.
But graduated from?
I graduated from Northeastern.
In what degree?
Structural engineering. But there was certainly, so the degree was civil engineering. So we had a construction management component.
Mm-hmm.
But I unlike Bill, I was really into math. So I went the structural route. But I actually worked at S&A Stairs in Australia. They're fairly big on Instagram, but they're the largest stair manufacturer in Australia. So I picked up.
Okay, how serious are they? What's their inseam for their shorts?
What's their inseam?
Their inseam. What is that?
They got crazy shorts, right?
Crazy shorts, yeah. Oh man, it took me a little while to get used to that. Yeah.
They're comfortable.
But I mean, they were doing something like 8,000 stairs a year. We have Hardwood Design has 15 employees, and they had almost 200. So they were really. Wow. I took a lot of, the production mentality from them, and have been trying to kind of apply it here at Hardwood. But it's not only is it a different culture going from Australia, especially to New England, but it's also a different, even though it's stairs, it's a different market. Like they made a lot of stairs out of MDF. Yeah, they were all MDF. Yeah, they were pumping them out. Yeah, and standard models, where the builder would guarantee, well height,
the opening,
well dimensions. But Australia also has the same trade culture as Europe. It's government funded trade training programs where, at a fairly early age, you sort of pick. You want to be a tradesperson, or you want to be in I don't even know what do you call it? Finance or law,
white collar. Yeah.
Right. And so there's an abundance of labor there, even to the point where I thought the wages were reasonably low.
Yeah.
For guys that could put stairs together.
But my dream has always been to kind of, come in and, hopefully take over the company and bring it to, really be able to expand it. And the first seemingly unattainable goal is to get Bill out of here.
So when you said grow it, how do you mean that? Is it money? Is it employees? Is it actual quality of work, if that's possible?
I would say like the closest measurable thing would be sales. But it would also be the employees. Yeah. But like
why is that a goal to you? Like, this has been in business for how many years? Like, what's broke?
Oh, man,
why change it?
Yeah, you should see it.
But you want to add more people to it, and you want to add more volume to it. You want to make it more profitable.
I do. I want to make it more profitable. I want to make it more efficient. I mean, a lot of the things are about, like, I say sales. I just say sales because that's the number one. Not the number one, but that's the one with numbers where you can quantify it easily. Besides the number of employees, but there's so many things that I'm as I'm here and as I'm gaining experience, I'm learning that there's so much more to it than just putting an ad in the newspaper, maybe not newspaper anymore, but Instagram, and being like, hey, we have room for another guy. We want to hire another guy. It's like, wait, do we have the company culture to support this person? Do we have the training programs to be able to train them in the way that we want? So there's a lot of things. And Bill even says that his biggest disadvantage was not having, really worked for another company where, he graduated college and had come out and,
and kind of at a very, almost my age, early 20s, started this company. But, like I tried to gain as much experience as I could from other companies to be like, hey, Bill, listen to what I learned today. They're doing this. This is their employee benefits package. This is the mindset behind it, that kind of thing. So it's a tough question. It's tough to put say specifically how am I going to grow it and how am I going to measure it? But that's the dream.
Bill, was it always your goal to have Chase in the business?
I always said to him, I want, him and his sister to do whatever they fulfills them, whatever fills them up. I have, it's great that he's, as interested as he is. But I always said, do what you want to do. Don't feel obligated to take this thing over, because I could be just as happy selling it. I'm
no pressure.
Getting done. What's that?
No pressure. You could sell this thing in a heartbeat. So what are you doing to offset the salary that you just took on?
His?
Yeah.
What, are you saying he's supposed to be paying me?
I think so.
Not in Bud Light.
Yeah. No, I only owe him a couple $100,000 for school.
$365 to be exact.
Yeah,
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, you got it. That's like
Dude,
one staircase.
You couldn't have commuted? You
That's
had,
like
you
one
had to do room and
staircase.
board. Room and board, huh?
Yeah.
Jesus.
No, I don't know.
That is a penny.
Yeah, he definitely did a good job at making me feel like there was no pressure to come back. And Northeastern gave me the opportunity to work. I worked at 2 structural consulting firms as well to kind of be able to get a feel for, like, all right, do I really want to work in this, in a dusty shop, or would I rather be, sitting behind a desk? And when I worked there, I was like, wow, I really miss the sawdust.
That was it.
That was it.
You missed the sawdust.
Whose idea was it to go get more work experience and then kind of see the inner workings of the other companies? Was that your dad in your ear, or is that something that you kind of came up with on your own, or a combination of the two?
I'm going to give myself most of the credit for it.
All of it.
But the crazy thing was that it really was through Instagram. Like, I had been following S&A Stairs on our Instagram, and they just, like, they do a really good job at posting the finished product, and kind of, having a brand. And I just always looked at that and was like, wow, these guys are the real deal. Even though I look at us and we're like, yeah, we're the real deal. Yeah. But so we actually, I tried to get him to, kind of make the introduction and give him a call and be like, hey, I'm the owner of the stair company, but neither of us could get through over the phone. We just kind of got stuck at reception. And I actually slid into their DMs, and the right person saw the message and was like, hey, this could be an interesting thing. And they really, I think, I left there, feeling like I owed them something, and feeling like they really treated me well and shared as much as they could. But I think that I gave them some really good processes and suggestions, and really got the people there thinking about, why do we do it like this? How else could we do it? But it was really cool.
So I don't know if you guys know that Northeastern, that they have a co-op program, so you're really employed and paid reasonably well by whoever takes you on.
For 2 semesters, right?
You guys are on the quarter system?
It's kind of, they did, like, I would say it's more closer to trimesters.
Yes, you're on the quarter system, so you have 3 months, right?
So
each term is 3 months.
Was anywhere from 6 to 8 months.
Yeah,
solid.
And they really, and they really coordinate the whole thing. Like, you really, you go to class for your first 2 years so you can get some background in your major, but then you have a class that they get you to refine your resume. You do practice interviews, and then they put a list in front of you that's like, here are all the companies that are expecting to hire a co-op, a student from Northeastern. And they would send your resume for you, but they also offered you the opportunity to say, if you feel like you can, make your own, or you might be able to explore another opportunity, feel free. And that's what I ended up doing on the last one. Because I was looking for the sawdust, the sawdust and the humor.
So they weren't on the list?
No,
of co-ops?
They had never done it before.
Yeah, they had actually never had an intern before. They had only had apprentices from trade school.
Yeah, so I went to school across the street at Wentworth, and we had co-ops as well.
Yeah,
and it's just it's funny that you went into a field of study and then almost even in co-op knew you weren't going to go into it. Did you think beyond the experience that the 346?
365.
365.
It might have been actually more than that. But
was it worth it?
I ask
that every day.
I struggle.
Wait, having a kid or college?
Yeah, I struggle with that one. Even though, so my original plan with the structural engineering was I really wanted to be able to take advantage of the math. The math side of me, like it was a gift, and also something that I fairly enjoyed. And I figured, like, he had done a couple of jobs that I had heard about where he actually needed to hire a structural engineer to stamp the project. So my idea was, if I go to school, get licensed, I'll be able to stamp those projects for you, and it would also help out with projects that you don't necessarily need a stamp for.
$1,200 a stamp divided by whatever that value is. That's a lot.
That's a lot of stamps.
The value in the co-op was huge.
Yeah, so it goes back to experience. I guess that's what I got hung up in is the co-op was the key part. So like, let's say as young, immature individuals in high school, what is the next step? Is it going to work for somebody? And like the school part of it is just experience of being with your peers and drinking beers and making friends.
Using beers, that's what it's about.
But it's think about it. I look back and it's like some of the best time I had is honestly growing and understanding what I was responsible for. Like going to co-op and then making my class later that day. Because I would do co-op and then even when like during the rest of the semester, I'd be like, all right, my class is until 10. I'm going to go pour concrete. And it's like that right there was the lesson.
Yeah.
Like that right there. And I didn't see that then, but now I do. So like, this is a great opportunity. We've never asked somebody that went to school, a grade school, got a degree, spent some dough, dad's on the pod. Like you get both points of view.
Yeah. And I really I think the last co-op at the stair company made it, really, really tipped it over the edge for me. Because before, if I hadn't had that co-op, I think I really would be, I would be hurting. I'd graduate with the degree and be like, all right, well, I passed all of the, all the math classes, all the engineering classes that I could, and I'm never, I'm not using calculus in my day-to-day job. But the stair company gave me a lot of outside experience in processes and procedures, but also the relationship with them that I fostered was really is really valuable and will continue to be valuable. And even aside from that, like the problem solving and the work ethic that you learn from an engineering degree, I think is really, especially from a school like Northeastern, where we've really, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't really enjoy myself all that much. I felt like I was studying and really just grinding through the schoolwork. But at the end of it, I was like, okay, I'm used to staying up at night, turning over these things in my head. And I'm used to kind of, getting to a point in a problem and being like, there's no way that that's even possible. And then somehow getting to the other side and being like, oh, I arrived at the right answer. There's a certain, like, even if I don't use that exact formula, in this job, there's still that crossover with that kind of thing.
But he can look at our projects and understand structural properties that I only am, totally going by gut.
Right.
That's big enough.
It really is. He can look at things. He looked at a T-shaped metal support beam that we were, or support component that we were putting in these stairs, and he's like, God, that is, the plate steel is so much stronger than any other part of this, of this structural, package that you're putting together, and that wasn't obvious to everybody, but really obvious to him at a glance, which is nice.
It's like when you're looking at something, you're like, do you think that that's load bearing? It's like, just throw a Sawzall blade in there. If it starts binding up,
I like that.
You'll amazing. Be good.
Yeah.
Well,
just
I guess the
pulling
question,
one at a time, see if it starts moving.
Yeah. Cut the first one and then pull the other ones out. And if that one has a load on it,
should be good.
No, but I guess the question is social media, would it be an option to not go to college and then go right to that stair company or multiple stair companies and do internships there and have that work experience without that enormous amount of debt? Is that an option if looking back, having hindsight?
I've thought about that. And I would love to think that I could have, had the audacity and the confidence and the professionalism to be able to recreate that, me just simply reaching out to them over Instagram and setting up this internship. But thinking back, it really...
You think Northeastern having that label on it helped?
I think so. Not only the label, but they really did. Like I had mentioned that they did this class. We actually took the class 3 times to be able to revisit and revise, your resume and practice interviewing. And they taught you specifically proper interview etiquette. And it wasn't, just like an uncertainty thing in your head where it's like, should I put on cologne for this interview or like that, that kind of thing. It was like, no.
You're supposed to put it on your resume, so they.
Yeah, you're supposed to put it on your resume, and it's supposed to.
So they know.
So Bill, he rocked that interview.
Put yogurt on his resume.
Yeah, it's a little yogurt, a little hot yogurt. I don't know, whatever.
But the other
lemon curd.
I'm glad that came full circle.
Yeah.
Really?
I mean, I don't. So how old are you? 22.
23.
23.
No, I don't know what a lemon curd is.
Ready to change the world.
No, it's refreshing to hear. I can look back at myself. I'm 34 now. When I was 23 and didn't know what the hell I wanted to do, and still to this day somewhat resentful. I went to Drexel and we had the same thing, the quarter system and the 3 co-ops for 6 months at a time. So set up very similar to what you did, and I still somewhat regret going through all of that because I don't feel like I necessarily positioned myself to maximize the full potential of the program. But it without this blowing your head up, you seem to have a good head on your shoulders and you seem to be bringing something to the table, which is why I asked also whose idea it was to kind of get this perspective that your dad didn't necessarily have the luxury of having. And it's, it would be nice to have somebody like you on board. And I think that your dad's lucky to have that, and I'm sure that doesn't come with you spray pooping the toilet every now and then.
Yeah.
I appreciate. I really appreciate.
But at 23, and this is only speaking to you, the past half hour or so of you actually talking, but you seem to be headed in the right direction, and it's nice and it's refreshing to see. I feel like most conversations with a 23-year-old aren't of this nature.
Well, I appreciate that. It's a little bit like I'm in a little bit of a weird position, like he always makes the joke like don't put me with the boss's son. I don't want to. I fucking hate that kid, but it is kind of like I'm the boss's son, so it's like I certainly have a level of privilege that other people don't have, but I think I would like to think that my attitude could be a lot worse. Like I could be that boss's son who's actually doesn't really know anything and wants to just kind of wants to point the finger and just take everything over.
I don't regret the education thing at all. I think the education is never wasted, and that even when he worked really hard to get the engineering degree, and it was fortunate for us with him being in Boston, because he could jump in and help us on jobs in Boston, or he could be the recon guy to look at something, and now what he's bringing, potentially for the future of the company is really big. He's got a lot of basic knowledge about what we do, and then the gene to really hammer this business with technology is going to be essential for survival.
Yeah, and I think having somebody kind of close to the hip at that point is comforting and reassuring, and probably a good thing for you as well.
Yeah. And
that's exciting.
I kind of did the same thing. I mean, I got a business degree from BU, and I was like getting ready for interviews with a necktie on, and I was realizing that I couldn't breathe because I was a woodworker. I wasn't a finance guy. I wasn't meant to work in a bank or an office. And so I decided to not even interview. I just decided to partner up with those two guys that I knew in this building and pursue starting the business right away. And it got big.
BU in Northeast. You guys are smarter than you look.
Seriously.
I feel like when I first came on.
Sorry, that came out bad.
I would have never pegged you for BU.
I know, and I was a little bit out of place there because I'm really not a city dweller.
I was just thinking everyone should try and put on a tie, and if it doesn't fit well, then you know what, just go into the trades.
Yeah,
I think that's the moral of the story. Effectively, is that if you're not sure what you should be doing, try the tie, and if it's not comfortable,
yeah. True. Now, Nick, did you go to school or college or?
I did. I went to Fitchburg State.
Oh, so look, we got a bunch of smart people.
So it's like an elementary school.
Oh.
Yeah, not as smart as John.
Okay. Jesus.
But you know what? So I didn't. I took my education, my management degree, and the guys that I partnered up with, neither of those guys had gone to college and didn't have any business education background. They were purely woodworkers, and so I brought, even though I didn't have any real experience, I brought what little business theory I stuck with me from my business degree. I brought that into the business, and they were always asking me, like, why do you care about cycle times? Why do you care how long it takes to do the project? It's really just about being one with the wood,
That's awesome.
Because I want to make some money here. I don't want to be, eating crap macaroni and cheese for the rest of my life here, So
That's so true.
nothing wasted. Yeah.
I would get a business degree if I could right now. Night classes, whatever. We've talked about this before, Nick.
Mm-hmm.
Business class.
And what was your degree in, Nick?
Mine?
Yeah.
Construction management.
Really? Okay. So there's got to be business classes as part of that program.
I don't think it served me well for business. I think my experience outside of school served me far, far better. So the only thing that school got me was the job out of school, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You know, I'm glad I went because I wouldn't have got the job I got, and I wouldn't have met my wife. But other than that, I don't. The education portion of it, I think, really lacked. But I think John hit the nail on the head because it was an elementary school. So.
Fitchburg State Elementary.
I can't wait to get all the emails.
Yeah.
It's gonna be awesome.
You're
Back
an
to back.
asshole.
I already heard about how Ireland does have power tools from my last podcast.
Potatoes.
Ireland has power tools. Yeah. Nice.
I was trying to have fun.
Yeah.
Clearly,
Everyone calls him out.
It wasn't received that well.
No. You have to be very careful and sensitive.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, they'll get over it.
Yeah.
Well, guys, thank you so much for hanging out way past an hour and 50 minutes past your bedtime.
How long did we go? How long's the whole?
We're at 3:20 right now.
Wow.
Holy cow!
It goes by quick, right?
Right?
Yes, it does, man.
I still can't believe you guys do this every week.
I know.
Same.
What do you guys keep doing? Like I feel like Chase is like drafting something while he's off camera.
Yes, I have actually been working on a little side hustle.
Oh yeah. What do you get going on?
Online gambling.
Yeah.
No, I don't have anything going on.
Yeah. He's fluffing his resume.
Taking an online resume class.
Now, imagine the resume of a fluffer.
Seriously.
You know, does that get fluffed too, or?
We see them all the time.
I think it does.
Yeah.
That's an interesting concept.
Yeah, double. Yeah.
Hmm.
Anyway, with that,
We can end on that.
So you heard it here first, Fluffer and what was it? Wood.com? Hardwood.com.
Hardwood.com and
Hardwood.com.
yeah.
lemon curd.
Lemon curd and fluffing.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So many great.
HDI stairs. That's what they brought to the table. Chase, Bill, thank you so much for being on, man, guys.
That's great. Well, thanks for it.
Hold on, we got to do that final question.
Oh
Oh,
yeah.
What would you have told yourselves that you know now back in the beginning?
Stick to fluffing.
I'm just gonna let Bill take this one because I am in the beginning. So
That makes sense. Yeah.
I realized not that long ago, unfortunately, that in everything we do, anybody can build a curved stair. Anybody can do great millwork or build a beautiful building project. The real skill is cultivating and keeping relationships. And that's it, 100%. And if you can do that, if you figure out how to cultivate and keep relationships healthy, you will be so successful. And that's all I can say. I wish I had known that, when I was really young, because I did a good job of destroying a few relationships that didn't need to get destroyed, And that's it. That's all I can say.
That was
good.
great.
Good
Peace.
advice.
It was a pleasure meeting all you guys.
likewise. Next time in person.
Yeah, hopefully at
seriously.
a job site in person pretty soon.
Yeah.
Billable, right, boys?
Yeah.
Nick,
Always.
I suggest keep blowing on that dog. You just have to stick with it.
Shout out to my dog.
Yeah, wait till he's sleeping and then get really close.
Really?
Puff of air in the face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. She didn't like it.
But maybe if you write a process and let her read it,
Yeah.
she'll be on board with it.
Don't patronize me.
Progress, not perfection.
Peace.
See you, boys. Thank
All
you.
right, guys. Good night.
That was fantastic.
Wasn't it?
Yeah, we got a good review.
Uh-oh.
Well, for me and Tyler. Every Monday I listen to the new podcast, and then I get addicted and go back and start to listen to the previous podcast. I'm 21 years old. I just graduated college, working as an assistant PM building multifamily townhomes, and I want to leave. The more I listen to the podcast, the more I want to leave my job and start to become a craftsman. I would love to get into framing and trim carpentry, but I'm having trouble finding a true, authentic carpenter who is passionate about their work and wants to teach. Any tips on how to find someone I can work with and trust them to learn? Thanks for the inspiration, guys. Did I already read that one?
I don't think so.
Sure.
Unless it was last week. I wasn't here last
No,
week.
I guess not. Maybe not. Any tips on how I can find someone I can work for who I can trust and learn from? Thank you guys for the inspiration and always keeping it real. I wish you all the very best.
Thanks. That was nice.
Yeah. Well, any tips that he can find? I mean, I think it goes down to find out who's building the nicest homes and go ask. I think more people, I think that, like, if someone showed up on my job and they showed true, like, desire to be in this industry, I mean, John, I feel like you'd be the same way. It's like you'd be fired up for him and be like, yeah, let me see if I can figure something out.
No, I mean, absolutely. I mean, you've had a guy that showed up at my doorstep once.
Yep.
You know? So, I mean, it's the same. The hardest part is knowing that you have the time and space for them and not because you're wasting it. You know, that's the hardest thing, is that it's having the right amount of time to be able to educate and dial people in. Otherwise, they're just going through the motions and you're wasting passion.
Yeah.
That's where I fall into a
I feel like the most readily accessible place to try and find someone would possibly be starting at some lumber yards or vendors.
Oh, great idea.
I don't know how open book. I don't see why an architect wouldn't, you know, if they had names of contractors who were looking to hire, and then touching base with companies and seeing if they are hiring. If they are hiring, asking if you can meet with them and interview them the same as they interview you.
Yeah. You got anything new on the survey this week, John?
Yeah, there was a couple things. Sorry, I was just texting you guys, so it would be smooth on the exit.
So let's read John's text.
Sorry, I was trying to keep it smooth, but you guys killed it soon. We had some good guest suggestions. Actually, Matt and Christine from Drop House Design. I've reached out to them already.
Sweet.
Their schedule is slammed. I text you guys their stuff all the time. They're doing steel.
Yep.
Cool stuff. Kyle from R&R, JJ
I
Quality.
asked. He's got a crazy schedule. He wants to do it at like 10 p.m. I'm like, man, I'm tired by then.
JJ Quality Homes, and that was left at 9-8. And then Frank from Carpenter 1-3.
All right.
Oh yeah, that's the guy out in California.
Essential Carpenter, Lower 48. And then this one's great. R&R. I know Johnny doesn't like his brackets, but he shares unbelievable metal cutting. Carpentry by Mar. Steve Bazek. Anyone from This Old House. Chicago Carpenter.
How about we do this, John?
Sorry. Yeah.
All of these recommendations, why don't they connect with who they want and tell them to DM us?
I think that brings us to the last one we talked about.
Well, we have a big ask for our 7 listeners out there.
Yes.
We've been patiently pursuing Michael Rowe to be on the podcast to dig into his initiative behind the blue collar, the trades. We've made little progress, but we think with your help, maybe we can make bigger progress.
Let's see what the MC Nation can do.
MC Nation.
That's
the Modern Craftsman Nation. So we're asking you guys for your help. Any connections to Mike Rowe would be fantastic. We'd love to have him on the show.
Honestly,
dig into
start DMing him, emailing him, whatever it is.
Feed.
Light him up.
Not even if you don't if you don't have a connection, just
just light him up. Let's put Modern Craftsman on his radar for a change.
All right.
Let's see the strength of the Modern Craftsman Nation, and hypothetically, we might be putting together some MC Nation shirts. So anybody that does this, throw a screenshot together, DM the Modern Craftsman on IG. we'll get you a MC Nation shirt.
Sweet. We got a list of people that we're going to do this with, but we're going to start with Mike.
Yes.
Guys, we appreciate you listening. You know where to find us. We will see you next week. And as always, this podcast is brought to you by Duration Moulding and Millwork. When it comes to beveled siding, Duration checks all the boxes. It remains exceptionally stable, won't rot or decay, doesn't require clearance to grade, deck surfaces, or even roofs, doesn't need back or edge priming or sealing, cuts, sands, fills, and repairs easily, can be painted any color with regular latex paints, comes in all 16-foot lengths for fewer joints, is environmentally friendly with cradle-to-cradle certification, can be installed in any temperature thanks to no need for field cut edge and end sealing. For more information, please visit their website at durationmillwork.com.
You must have proofread that. No, straight. Oh, I'm so jealous of you. 45 responses on the survey.
Whoa.
45.
Dang.
All great ones, by the way. This gives you an opportunity to write in where the guest suggestions are, topic suggestions, all that stuff. So you can find that survey at
The Period Modern Craftsman on Instagram.
in the profile. There's a link.